Guys, I got an Umbrella Academy. Oh, sorry.
Breaker Crunchers. Welcome to issue 83 of Couch Crunchers, where we don't know what we're doing still, nearly 100 episodes in. With me is the gentle mechanic Sam.
Hey.
A bald, it's Lance over there.
Hello.
And a special guest from Comic Exposure, Travis, looking dapper.
Cheers, gentlemen.
It's so funny. It's so funny because this is totally a Sam thing. Like when the movie's coming out, he likes to dress up for it. Travis and him did not talk about this though, and they're both dressed up fancy. I love it.
Usually when Sam and I talk, it's about serious world issues.
That's right.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lance and I just look like goofballs like usual. I was half tempted to go upstairs and
you say cue balls or goofballs?
Goofballs.
Oh, okay.
Jerk. I have some hair.
I have a hat that Max told me I had to wear for when we do the show because I get this little shiner.
Oh man, it is so bright.
Hey, should I get the hat?
You get a beanie.
Get some powder. You need a nice powder base on that bad boy.
He went dark. Man.
Oh, the hat really worked. Oh, no, there he is.
Oh my, there it is.
The hat really worked. That's exactly what it is. He's completely invisible now.
You look like someone that a character would talk to before they go to Jurassic Park to get directions to it,
don't go down that way. The velociraptors are down that way.
You're going to want to get on a boat. That boat's going to take you to an island.
You look like the guy at Jurassic World who holds on to his margaritas when the dinosaurs attack.
That's it. Nailed it.
I like it. Well, we're excited to have you guys here tonight. Travis, the last minute edition. We're happy to have you on. You're always fun.
No Open invite.
Absolutely. The 1917 episode was awesome. You and Sam have such different perspectives on things than Lance and I do, and you two going off of each other was fascinating. That was
I walked away from that one really appreciating the movie a lot more than I did when I watched it, which I guess is the point, right?
Yeah,
gentlemen.
Max and I are just that movie's cool. I like that one. It's riveting podcasting.
No,
riveting.
I like the guns.
Yeah, I went and saw it again on Thursday, actually, right before I saw The Gentlemen. I was going to a theater that was 30 minutes from my house, and so I was thinking, I don't want to drive home 30 minutes just to be home for 30 minutes to an hour and then drive back. So I just caught a double feature. It was awesome.
Oh, nice.
So 1917 and then The Gentlemen, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But before we do that, we're going to get into some other conversations. The first one, Lance is going to probably be pissed about. But yeah, we're going to start off with Fab or Flub like we usually do. And if you don't know what the segment is, it's where we talk about some recent headlines and we decide whether they're fabulous or flubulous. First on the docket is that the Hulu shows Howard the Duck, Tigra, and Dazzler are all reportedly, this is not confirmed from what I understand, but reportedly they have all been canceled. And I'm going to start and say, I don't give a freaking flying scoot. I don't care. Fab, I guess. I don't want these shows that never cared. So Fab from me.
They were animated shows.
Yeah, I never cared. So I'm fine with them being canceled. But I know that you've wanted Howard the Duck stuff for a long time.
Howard the Duck is one of the coolest because he's not really a superhero, right? He's this duck playboy, and Seth Green was fantastic as the voice of him for the little bit that we got. I think it would have been hilarious. It could have been the new Marvel's new Deadpool essentially, but without all the violence.
Fair enough.
I agree.
I
agree with you. Yeah. I think I was really excited for Howard the Duck. Max, I'm the same way. Shows come and they get canceled, and a lot of times I'm yeah, okay. We live in this culture where everything gets put out too early, and then we get excited for it, and then it gets canceled or whatever it is. But this one, Howard the Duck. I was kind of bummed. Kevin Smith was associated with that one too, right? Was he just writing scripts or just kind of in the writer's room?
I think he was
showrunning or
a showrunner, or not showrunner, but a producer, and I think he was going to direct and write it.
Absolute Geek is saying fact check. Kevin Smith confirmed it yesterday. So even better. That means that these definitely aren't coming. I'm very excited they're not coming.
Well, I mean, they
Yeah.
weren't going to be
Okay.
tied to the MCU. They were just going to be separate things. I don't see it as any different than, the stuff that they put on Disney XD, like the Spider-Man animated show and stuff like that. It would just been.
I'm mostly messing with you. I mean, they could have been interesting. Like the Harley Quinn show, I still am only like one episode in, but I loved what I've seen of it so far. And so Howard the Duck probably would have been a similar idea, that like adult cartoon style. And it could have been funny, but I just wasn't really ever interested. So I don't really care.
What was the show in the 90s where they had it was like a duck detective or something? It wasn't Howard the Duck.
Darkwing Duck.
It wasn't Darkwing Duck. It was like on MTV. It came out around the same time as Beavis and Butthead. I'm gonna go a little deeper dive on this, but I like the aesthetic of Howard the Duck, and I think that would have been really cool in cartoon. I think you could pretty much, your possibilities are limitless as far as the tone of that show, and so I was kind of really digging on seeing how they were gonna kind of approach it and everything like that. So yeah, I'm kind of bummed about that one.
Well, if you're like me, this is the announcement that these shows were even ever being considered. This was the first I heard of either of these shows, was that they were being canceled. Now, that said, Disney already has a lot of ducks in their stable of properties. You've got Donald Duck, you've got DuckTales, you've got Darkwing Duck. There's so many ducks already. Gizmo Duck. Maybe they just didn't want to add another duck to the pot and say how he's related to the Disney ducks already.
That almost makes me more interested in it. Make it like adjacent to DuckTales world. That would be freaking awesome. Just don't tell the kids. Only the adults will know.
Disney's got a thing for poultry though. I mean, they had the porgs as well, which are basically chickens in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of poultry already. They just didn't want any more. I get it.
What were you saying, Sam, before I so rudely interrupted you?
Well, and then Tiger and Dazzler, I'm not familiar with those properties either, but it seems like as these Marvel shows are getting rolled out, and also as we'll talk about later, Star Wars shows are getting rolled out, they're being announced as if it's a done deal. And then we find out a month later it was just a wouldn't it be cool type announcement. And then the show never actually gets up off the ground. For me, this is disappointing. This is scary because I had a lot of high hopes for the Marvel properties. I was looking forward to a lot of those shows that they had announced, like Loki, which is further down the pipeline. And if these shows, which seem like relatively easy to pull off, are being having their plugs pulled this early, it doesn't bode well for the rest of the properties down the pipeline.
Yeah, I agree. They're treating these shows like the way we treat speculation with athletes if they're going to be signing with a new team or something like that. And so it builds up all this hype. Is there a negative consequence to that as far as if this stuff keeps happening to a fan base? Do we just stop believing the boy who cried wolf at some point as fans? Or is there any, if this culture continues of announce, then cancel, announce, then cancel, is there anything you see that having a huge negative impact anywhere?
I do. I think it's going to have really big. Yeah, I think it's going to have really negative impact
Because
fans are going to stop believing it.
Yeah, I've become so skeptical until I see a trailer or I see something like a movie poster or something. Mm-hmm. Even the movie posters might not even be believable at times. Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw announcements for Inhumans, the movie, and then that quickly got turned into a TV show. But I think it will get better. I just think Marvel's going through a lot of flux right now with Jeff Loeb leaving the company, Marvel Studios absorbing the television studios and 20th Century Fox and Searchlight. There's a whole bunch of flux going on right now. These Howard the Duck and Dazzler shows were the inception of them happened before all this.
They were passion projects for people who are probably no longer there.
Right.
What sucks though for us as podcasters is we invest so much time talking about these speculations and things like that. When it doesn't happen, I feel like it burns extra for us because we're like, dude, we spent probably a good 2 hours over the last year talking about Howard the Duck cartoon show or something, and then we're like, wasted. It's wasted.
Right. No, yeah. The same thing happened with the Deadpool cartoon that was supposed to come out with Donald Glover.
That's
was
right.
involved in writing it.
That one I was actually excited about.
Yeah, you could have Howard the Duck. I think would have been very similar.
Yeah. You could start a podcast just called Canceled Shows, where each week you just talk about a canceled show. I even forgot about that Deadpool Donald Glover thing.
See, this sounds like a job for the movie mechanic. He could just go to all these canceled shows and write stories for them.
Yeah, it's just basically my headcanon of whatever all these shows were supposed to be.
No, you got to review them like you watched the first episode.
Yeah, I just wrote and reviewed my own first episode.
Legit though, that could be fun actually. Write an episode for a canceled show. We could like talk about our thoughts about it.
At the end of the year, you got to do a graveyard. Like a content graveyard where you bring up all the best things that died and did not make it to life, and just spend a whole episode on it.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea.
That is a good idea. I like that. Well, Sam brought up an interesting point, so I'm going to move on to our next topic that we were going to talk about, which is that the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show is supposedly delayed. It's the drama surrounding this show has been so absurd, and so I just kind of wanted to talk about it because you had a report coming out that they took the episode count from 6 down to 4. You got other reports saying that they've sent everyone home, and which supposedly that's true, that they did send people home, and then it seems like it's in trouble. And then you've got people like Ian McGregor coming out saying, no, it's not in trouble, this is totally normal, it's not a big deal, the release date isn't being pushed out, we're just not going to film until next year now. And I don't know, what do you guys think about this?
It's just another example of what they did with Howard the Duck. I mean, maybe announcing things too soon.
I think Kenobi's still happening. I don't think there's any need for panic, but I am more concerned about the project than I was before. But sorry, someone was about to say something. It sounded like.
Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back.
I this one kind of saddens me more than the Howard the Duck, but there's still hope for this one. I really like the prospect of an Obi-Wan show.
Too.
I think Ewan McGregor is great in that role. I think we only saw he was only allowed to do so much with kind of like the the language they gave him in that script and stuff like that. He's got a great look for it. He seems to really love the role. He seems to champion the role. Like he understands the enormity of the fan base, and I feel like he has like a great amount of responsibility for really diving into that character. Like you see him when he like works with like the lightsabers and stuff. Like he really puts the time into figuring out like how to move like this character, like how to speak like this character. You might have already talked about this. I didn't read it. Do they know? Have they released like what era of Star Wars they're going to be talking about as far as Obi-Wan's life?
Well, we know it takes place in between episodes 3 and 4, but exactly where, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But it's after that. There's been rumors that it was going to be like young Luke that he's watching over. I really hope that's not the case. I would rather see other aspects of his story. Not that we know a lot about his story, but I would be super sad if this gets straight up like canceled. Delayed, whatever. That means it's still going to come out eventually, but I'm excited about this. So the fact that there's so much drama around it has me concerned. So I'm going to say flub, but at least it's not canceled yet. I'm going to cross my fingers here. I really, really would be disappointed because Ian McGregor is one of the best parts about the prequels. Like the dialogue in those movies is atrocious. It's an insult to screenwriting. But like Ian McGregor makes a lot of it sound good still because he just delivers his lines so well.
Some of the I question like the shots they choose to use in those prequels. They have so many shots of Ewan McGregor kind of doing like a weird laugh where he's like, oh, Annie, and you're like, what? No, come on. There's got to be a better take of that. Who's cutting this thing?
Or the one where he let me see if I can do it. Where he pops up, hello there.
Yeah. Would you like to buy some death sticks? You don't want to sell me death sticks. I don't want to sell you death sticks.
Yeah, I love that part actually. You want to rethink your life. You want to go home and reconsider.
I want to
your
rethink my life and go home and.
It's pretty good impersonation there. Are you sure you weren't that character?
Maybe I have seen that movie too many times for someone who probably doesn't champion that movie.
That's the worst Star Wars movie. Episode 2 is the worst Star Wars movie, in my opinion, man. Ugh.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this, Sam?
I mean, let's play devil's advocate for a second. It's too easy to agree with all of you.
Yeah.
What are the pros to them pushing it back? We get better writing. We get better production, hopefully. This allows other properties to kind of solidify the target audience, the Disney Plus audience. And hopefully by the time it does come around to production, we get a quality product. I think Mandalorian is also a quality show, but it's also very simple.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they borrow a lot from the old spaghetti westerns as far as storylines. I mean, does that mean we're going to get a lot of Obi-Wan as a Ronin, kind of wandering the desert, solving problems, a la Kurosawa with Yojimbo and that type of film? I mean, I don't have a problem with that because those are great films. But if that's the way they're going to go with it, let's see it done well. Let's give the characters layers. There are really great ways to do kind of a wandering Ronin type show, and I think it would really lend itself to that type of thing. So maybe the extra time is just to give it some better production value. So this is me just playing devil's advocate. Obviously, I want to see it as soon as possible. And every time they talk about delays, I mean, if they weren't even going to start shooting or producing it until next year anyway, why did they even need to talk about it being delayed? It's kind of disheartening, and it leads me to not put a lot of stock in this project.
I agree. You make a good point. Is if they're going to do it and they say, hey, we need to step back, take the time to do this right, then I'm all for it. I'd rather have quality than it be rushed out and just to see Obi-Wan on a screen again. Chad was saying in the chats that they think the pitch was that he was maybe going to be watching over Luke. And if you take that concept and then you also take that Kurosawa spaghetti western type of tone, you're really kind of stepping on the toes of the Mandalorian a little bit there. It is that lone cub kind of storyline, which is similar to what's happening with the Mandalorian, with the protector looking out after the innocent. So I'd like for them to step out of, if that's a track they're kind of going on, I'd like to make it, I like my Mandalorian over here and my Obi-Wan over here. And I kind of want them to be a different thing within the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I agree on that. I was going to say I don't want them to intersect. They literally can't, because Obi-Wan is dead when Mandalorian is happening. But I'm with you, Sam. I agree. So like we had talked about delayed video games, I think last week, maybe the week before, but we talked about several games that are being delayed. And my take on it was, yeah, it's disappointing that I don't get those games now, but if it means better quality, then yeah, I'm all for it. So like, it's the same thing with the Kenobi series. My concerns are that we keep hearing all these reports about it being in so much trouble. Doesn't mean that it's going to suck. It's a little bit concerning, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Rogue One had a ton of reshoots, but it's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Like I love
reshoots just happen. I think.
Reshoots are totally, they're totally normal. But like, so when we first started the show, Lance, I don't know if you remember this, but like back in Rogue One would have already been out. Rogue One was 20.
Wait, are you calling for reshoots of our early podcast?
No.
No. That might be not a bad idea.
Never mind. I thought we were talking about No, we were, because Rogue One was 2017. I remember us talking about Rogue One. No, it was Solo. We were talking about how Solo was going to suck, and it didn't end up being great. So never mind. My point isn't as valid. I like Solo, but it did have issues. Well, what do you think about this, Lance?
I just, it just makes me just approach all this news with skepticism. More skepticism is, in our group chat, Tyler was like, "Oh, they're debunking it. They're debunking it." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, but where there's smoke, there's fire, right?" Like, I think that whenever something comes out about this is being canceled or this is being delayed, and then somebody else is saying, "No, that's not true," or whatever, but there has to be some small kernel of truth. So I think just maybe looking at everything through not such, rose-colored glasses, and just
should I look through like velvet colored glasses, or is there a better color?
You know what I'm saying. I just think that as fans, we get so excited for these properties that maybe we need to like temper that excitement a little bit, because when things fall apart like this, we're just going to fall even harder.
Hey, Matt, if that's you, should I put you in timeout, dude? He's absolute geeks over there saying, "Don't you need to get better before doing reshoots?" I will put you in timeout, sir. I will put you in timeout. No, I can't do that. I was literally saying I was going to knife one of their podcasters last night. So
What?
It was a joke. They were talking about Kyle jumping into my territory with you, stealing you away from me, Lance. And I was like, I will knife you.
Into that. Let's not get into that. Lance, I think we all share your feelings. I was trying to maybe look at the other side of the coin to see if there were any pros, and I think the problem is that there's these delays and these little snippets of bad news spell a lot of doom and gloom for Disney Plus as a platform. It's not just the Kenobi series; it's Disney Plus as a platform. Every time they have another series that has hit production stalls, another few subscribers to the platform drop, and if they drop enough, then you're not going to have any new content coming out on Disney Plus, and who knows when it's going to take, when we're going to see these properties released.
Right, I agree.
Yeah. Now that's a good point. And Sam, you have been really good. I don't know if you've been meaning to do it or not, but you keep saying things that I'm like, man, that is a good segue. So earlier you said something that I was going to segue, then I was like, no, we haven't talked about Kenobi enough. But now we're going to segue into the next thing, because you're talking about how there's not any content on Disney Plus, and there's trouble, and I agree, there is some trouble. But one thing that we do know for sure is coming out on February 21st is Season 7 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And earlier this week, the trailer came out. Now, have any of you really watched that show besides me? No?
Nope. Lots of crickets.
Crickets, yeah. Just me. So do you guys even have thoughts on the trailer? Have you watched it?
I did watch the first season of Clone Wars, but I didn't follow it all the way through to, the reveal of I don't know. Is it? I mean, I guess we're spoiler safe, right? I think enough people have seen
the first season. Yeah,
the reveal of Spider Maul.
Yeah. People by now should know Darth Maul lived. Yeah, I think that was revealed in season 3 or 4. I think 4. Yeah,
that was season 4.
Yeah, and season 3 is where Clone Wars really gets good. I will not. I don't blame anyone who loses interest, adults especially, that lose interest in seasons 1 and 2. They're not bad, but they're more geared towards kids. Excuse me. And then season 3 comes along, it becomes a lot more, a little darker. And it's
can you jump into it in season 3 without having watched season 1 and 2?
You could. You could. There's not.
I guess you just read the synopsis online of 1 and 2, and
yeah, you could.
It, right?
And a lot of it's just about the war in general. The Clone Wars. A lot of the episodes are very self-contained, or maybe it's like 2 episodes that have an arc. Like I'm rewatching it right now, and there's a 2-episode arc where R2-D2 gets like trapped in space and captured, but because Anakin never wipes R2-D2's memory, they have to go on a journey to find R2. And there's like a droid that the separatists plant in Anakin's company that is sabotaging them. And so there's like two
Is that
episodes
the one where Anakin has to go through all those trenches and everything like that to get to R2, and then like the German forces are kind of I think I saw that
the
one.
German forces.
Yeah. Is that what you mean by darker? Yeah.
No, no, season 1's not dark at all.
Oh.
But like when Darth Maul comes into the picture, it gets more serious in tone. No, but it's just a fun show, but it gets better at season 3. I'm very excited for season 7 of this show. It sounds like it doesn't appeal to everybody though. It's not the content that most nerds want on Disney.
Well, here's my question for you then, Max. Do they cover Order 66 at all? Do they cover that topic?
They haven't yet, but that's the speculation, is that they're going to here. So in the trailer for season 7, you see Anakin talking to Padme, and she's clearly pregnant. Well, he doesn't find out she's pregnant until episode 3, the beginning of the events of that movie, and then she's pregnant throughout it. And so the speculation here is that a good chunk of the show, and it's going to be 12 episodes, is going to take place concurrently with season 3. We're going to see what Ahsoka Tano, for instance, was up to during the events of season 3. The rumor in the trailer, you see her and Darth Maul fighting each other, and the speculation out there is that that fight takes place at the exact same time as Order 66, and that she escapes because of the events of that fight. And that's how Ahsoka lives, where so many of the other Jedi die. So no, they have not shown Order 66 yet. They haven't even gotten to the Chancellor being captured. That's what I thought was going to be the ending of the show. I thought they were going to lead up to the Chancellor being kidnapped and then Anakin going to rescue him. But it looks like they're going to be showing events that happen at the same time as episode 3. You might see things that Anakin was up to during episode 3 that aren't shown in the movie, and that's what has me excited. We get to see some new stuff.
Are they? I guess it doesn't matter, but are they saying that this stuff that happens in the show is like part of the canon?
Yeah,
since Disney owns. Okay,
Clone Wars is 100% canon. So Clone Wars,
okay.
Rebels, Star Wars Resistance, pretty much any of like the TV shows are canon along with the movies.
Of those 3 you just mentioned, which one would you recommend to someone who's like, I want to check out one of those?
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars is my favorite of those 3. I haven't even watched Resistance. It looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So it's great. I think it's a really good show. It's a kid's show, but it is still fun for adults, and I think it's worth a watch. It is crazy how much Star Wars news there is out there, though. And Lance, you haven't said anything. Are you even on the show tonight?
Yeah, I'm just not a big Star Wars fan in general. So all these words that you guys are saying is you might as well be speaking another language. Akashoka or whatever you said.
All right. Ahsoka Tano, dang it. All right.
We don't have time. We don't have time for expanded universe 101 for Lance. He can take that correspondence course on his own. We're gonna
I have one more Star Wars question, because this literally came up yesterday. So in Tokyo, there's this suit shop called Unbuilt, and right now they're doing a special. I can do it in the private chat, the link, but I can't for some reason live chant. And what they're doing now is they're customizing these Star Wars suits, so you get whatever suit you want, and they'll customize your side. But then the lining, they have like 30 different options for lining that are Star Wars themed. Like you can get like the Star Wars comic lining on there. You can get all this. You kind of customize your own like Star Wars suit. It looks like a regular suit jacket on the outside, but on the inside Star Wars lining. Really? So I go there and I get this jacket customized. It's kind of like a buffalo checkered one, and I get to pick the lining. And so they have all these linings with different ships. I mean, you get them with the Millennium Falcon or Y-Wings or X-Wings or TIE Fighters, and I'd sit there and I was like, for a good 15 minutes, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what is my favorite ship in Star Wars? And I had to weigh, because I was putting money on the line. I was putting money on the line on this. And so I was like, what really? And I started thinking about, like, if I was in the Star Wars universe, which ship would I want to have? So I posed that question to you, gentlemen. If you could have any ship, except for Lance, because you know anything about Ahsoka, what? Ahsoka?
Yakisoba?
Lance, like a fast ship. I want a fast one.
The Millennium Falcon or the TIE Fighters? I mean,
yeah.
The HQ is pretty cool. Do those
count?
Millennium
Falcon?
Oh yeah, without question.
You don't get the Millennium Falcon. You just get that like Corinthian or whatever it is.
No. The Falcon. I want the Falcon.
I want a freaking Star Destroyer, man. That's what I want. Shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the AT-AT count as a ship?
That's not really a ship.
I mean, it carries people and it moves.
I can see Lance just kind of like moving around in that thing.
I would get the
likes the
AT-AT,
height
man.
of it. Yeah. You know what, Lance? Now you get a speeder bike. That's it.
Okay.
That's all you get.
if Star Destroyer doesn't count, then I'm going to say X-Wing. And that's mostly because, honestly, like one of the best things about The Last Jedi is when Poe at the beginning of the movie is like going like crazy in that X-Wing, blowing all the freaking cannons off of the like the dreadnought there. And that made me think, okay, X-Wings are really cool now. And
who says that a Star Destroyer doesn't count? That's a ship.
You guys were saying Star Destroyer. What? So
because you're evil. It makes
another
you
one.
evil.
It's because the Sith are the coolest.
I don't want to have to like deal with all the people that have to be on that. Like, that's a lot of people you have to crew. You know,
that's right.
That yeah.
You just said what?
We
Which one am I
now know that
going?
Travis will never be the captain of a cruise ship.
No, don't want to be. Too much responsibility. Too much responsibility. Although I do like the outfits.
All right. Well, we have
Travis
more.
just likes the hat.
Yeah, I do.
Put your
And a
hat
little
back
pipe.
on, Lance.
What?
Put your hat back on. You looked
Why?
good because you looked good.
This is my. I don't even know where I put it. That's my grandpa's hat. When he passed away, that's one of the things I grabbed from him. So I don't know.
I'm glad you put it someplace safe.
It
Oh,
was safe. It was hanging on my wall.
I gotta ask you something, Lance. What are you drinking there?
Mountain Dew Zero Sugar.
That's what I thought. What do you think?
I like Diet Dew better.
Fair enough.
It's too sweet.
Fair enough. I had to ask him because I've been drinking the Mountain Dew Zero as well.
I never even heard of that. Yeah.
It's brand new.
Brand new. I got it
It's a-
under his recommendation, and I wish I bought Diet Mountain Dew.
I think I like Diet better as well, but it's fun to try. I'm an addict to Mountain Dew though, so I was just excited to try something new.
He sends me a text the other day. He goes, "Hey, is it bad if I go get a soda at the gas station at night and then go back the next morning to get a soda on my way to work, and the same dude is working the checkout counter?" Like he never went home. I was like, "Yeah, dude, you have a problem."
I only bought a soda one of those times though. I really wanted to try the Mountain Dew Zero, and their website said that gas station had it, but they didn't. So
I never
Anyway,
got the concept. I never got the concept of soda in the morning. So people do the soda instead of like a coffee or tea. I don't understand that. It doesn't seem like it doesn't hit me with like I need some heat. I need to warm those tonsils up. I need to feel a little bite to it.
See,
I
I'm
need
not
to
a
like
hot
I
drink.
need to slightly not enjoy my first drink of the morning.
It's that burn on your tongue. It just
yeah. I'm like,
right.
all right.
When I drank coffee, it was always iced coffee. Like I'm just not a fan of hot drinks. I don't like hot cider, hot chocolate. It just doesn't feel good going down. So I never,
especially in Arizona, like 9 months out of the year, right?
Right. So yeah, it's iced everything for me.
Well, let's talk about something other than Star Wars. I had a couple more Star Wars things, but let's break it up for Lance's sake because I want to hear from him.
Yay.
This one you're going to have some stuff to say, I'm sure. So Bill Murray is confirmed, and we already knew this, but he is confirmed to return for Ghostbusters Afterlife, along with all the original cast, except for Rick Moranis. Unfortunately, Rick Moranis is not coming back.
So this should be split in two. Yay for Bill Murray, poo for Rick Moranis. Like, I don't understand why he is so against coming back to film. Like, he just is not willing. Even the small cameo he did on the Goldbergs was just his voice. Like, he's only doing voiceovers. He's not interested in coming back to film. And for a while, everybody thought it was because he was staying home with his girls. Well, now his girls are grown and he doesn't really have to stay home with them. Nobody knows why this guy doesn't want to do film again.
I heard it was because Harvey Weinstein touched him.
Mm.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he was caught up in that scandal.
What are you?
I don't
for
know.
real?
No.
I don't know if I'm supposed to. I was like, am I supposed to laugh or?
That guy's going to be going away for some time, so I think it's okay to laugh on
I don't
his.
know. I think he might have
on him, not on his.
Not a good joke. You don't have to laugh at it. I'm a gay. You don't have to indulge me. I took a stab. I didn't go well. It didn't go over well. You know.
Hey, yeah, they can't all be
God.
winners, Travis.
He probably
Get no respect.
I think why man, I can't even say his name. I think he's actually going to get suicided, and he's going to be in the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. We're going to see his ghost.
Oh, as a ghost.
Yes,
It's already in it. He's Slimer.
he's Slimer.
See, there we go. You tagged up on that nicely. It worked out well.
Perfect. Yeah, Slimer, baby.
Yeah. No, I'm stoked, but Bill Murray, I always knew he was going to come back. I don't know. Have you guys seen that new show on Netflix, the movies that made us? Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I haven't watched the Ghostbuster episode yet. Yeah.
Okay, so Bill Murray was attached to Ghostbusters, and nobody really knew he was doing it until the first day of shooting, where he just showed up on set. So they got everybody together, started shooting. He hadn't even signed a contract, nothing, and just shows up on the first day of set and like, okay, I'm here. And nobody was really. Only Dan Aykroyd was like, no, he's doing it. Everybody else was like, ooh, we're gonna have to call like Chevy Chase or something to come in here and save this movie, but nobody knew. So that's just typical Bill Murray fashion. Nobody operates the way as Bill Murray. He's his own creature. So you just never know.
I freaking love him. Go ahead.
The real question I have for you, Max, is how did they get Harold Ramis back?
Okay, sorry. Harold Ramis is not coming back. My apologies.
Oh, okay.
You could. I mean, you could take old footage. Yeah.
No, I said all of the original cast are coming back except for Rick Moranis.
Harold Ramis will definitely be in photos. They're going to show some photos, like digging through trunks. The kids will be
his
digging
character's
through trunks.
back.
Yeah.
His
I mean, if they
grandkids.
can get Carrie Fisher back in episode 9, I'm sure they can figure out a way to get Harold Ramis back.
That's true.
Well, we know from the trailer that he died and leaves his family this farm. So, I mean, maybe it could come back in some form of like a will video or something like that. But
wait, did they say that is it Egon's uniform that they dig out of the closet? Is that how we know it's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were saying my grandfather left us this farm, and then the next scene she's going through the.
Doesn't it say
wardrobe.
Spangler?
It says Spangler.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've watched that trailer probably 30 times. Ghostbusters is one of my favorite franchises, so I am very excited. As you can tell by the little Stay Puft back here.
Well, and I love Ghostbusters too. I'm super excited for this movie.
Lance is like, old Egon, he had a farm. EIA. Like, Lance is not even part of it.
I'm just trying to figure out how he gets a farm. Like, he was in New York, and then he gets a farm. Like, how far down did the ghost? Well, I mean, we did have an all-female version of the Ghostbusters, so we know exactly how far the Ghostbusters have fallen. But I'm so excited. I'm more excited for this than I am for any of the Marvel properties coming out.
So, since you're a Ghostbuster fan here, how big of a role do you want the old school guys to have in this new film? Do you want them to be like essential part of it, or do you just want like the cameos in there? Which would you prefer?
At least for this first one, I'd like them to be major like mentors to these new kids. You know, I'd like the threat to be brought back, and then these guys have to come and teach these kids how to.
Yeah, they're like the threshold guardians, right? So they have to stay with them for a little bit, but if you can't do you want them there fighting off like the climax, or is it all kids versus ghosts at that point in the movie?
I think a real fan service at the end of the movie would be to have the kids and the original, still living Ghostbusters fighting off this major. It's not just one, buddy. There's about 30 above where you can't see in the cameras.
For our listeners, I put up a little comment on the screen from Absolute Geek where Absolute Geek says, "No, Lance, no one can tell you're a super fan of something because of one pop."
No, it's I think that to really bring this first one together, because everybody was kind of upset about the role of the original Ghostbusters in the all-female
Yeah, it was
movie.
just cameos. Like they weren't their
Yeah.
characters. They were just.
They weren't their characters. They were cameos. Like, it was just kind of stupid. So I think that the end of the movie is going to see a huge threat, and that the kids and the originals are going to have to fight this threat together. I think in some way there's going to be a moment where these three guys are like, no, we're never putting on the suit again. No. Like, kids can do it. And then it just gets so bad that you're going to have this almost like triumphant moment where they're like, okay, let's suit up. Right.
Well, the parallels with Reitman directing it, that father-son dynamic taking over the mantle, I think that's really interesting. And I think that's a great kind of story that, I mean, it's literally passing the mantle of one. Like, this is a property, and I'm stepping in some big footsteps here. So I think working that into the film is going to be awesome.
Yeah,
I do think that Bill Murray's going to be I do think that Bill Murray's going to be a ghost, though. At some point in the movie, he's going to die.
You think he'll be a zombie?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Not a zombie, but I think because he said multiple times that if he does a Ghostbusters movie again, he wants to be dead. I do think at some point in the movie, Bill Murray's going to die and be seen again as a ghost. I think that
will allow him. It'll allow him to be more Bill Murray-ish, I think, if he's a ghost. Because yeah.
I'd like to see his spirit inhabit a painting that they have to drag around place to place through the movie. I think that'd be fantastic.
I want them to play big roles. Like I hope the originals play a big role, especially Bill Murray, though, honestly. Bill Murray is one of my favorite comedians ever. And so I want to see a lot of him. He was so good in the 80s and 90s, and he hasn't really been in as much since then. I mean, he's still been in stuff, but he's just been different in his roles.
Well,
and I really...
St. Vincent is one of my most favorite.
Yeah, but that's a different role. He was really good in that, but it was more of like a drama role, and it was good. And Zombieland was freaking amazing. But like, I miss his days of What About Bob, Ghostbusters, and The Man Who Knew Too Little. Now I get it; like, he's older now; those aren't really the roles he's gonna do. But like, I miss that Bill Murray, and so I'm hoping we get to see something like that in this Ghostbusters movie. I want to see a lot of Bill Murray.
I think he'll revisit that old character, but I think if you're going to get one more than any other, it's going to be Dan Aykroyd. You're going to get a lot of Dan Aykroyd in this movie.
That's fine with me too. I love Dan Aykroyd, and his character's great, but Peter Venkman is my favorite. I don't know if you even know this, Lance. So growing up, I was obsessed with Ghostbusters, and I still love Ghostbusters, but you're definitely a bigger fan than I am. But as a young kid, my favorite toy was a Peter Venkman toy. And what was that hand motion?
That was, you got to point to the pop every time you say super fan now.
Yeah.
Oh. But I was such a big fan that, like, as a kid, I had a Peter Venkman action figure that was my toy. I took everywhere I went, to the point where, like, I was playing with it outside one day. I dropped it in the sandbox we had in the backyard. And when it came time for bedtime, my mom had to go out with a flashlight and look for this thing for me because I wouldn't go to bed without it. Like, I love Peter Venkman. I love Ghostbusters. And I'm super excited for this. So I hope that the original guys get some love. I understand it's going to be a passing of the torch, but I would say overall I was pretty happy with how much screen time Han Solo got, for instance, in episode 7. If these original Ghostbuster characters can get that much screen time, I think I'll be pretty happy.
I'm trying to find my Egon toy, and I can't find it anywhere.
If you guys are really hard up for more Bill Murray in your life, there is a documentary, I believe it's still on Netflix, but it's called The Bill Murray Stories. And they basically treat Bill Murray as some kind of urban legend where he just shows up in people's lives. That's called The Bill Murray Stories, Life Lessons Learned from a Mythical Man.
Really?
One of my favorite stories from that movie was this gal was having a house party and Bill Murray showed up. And they're having a band and a live music, and they said, Bill Murray, will you play in our band? And he gets in the band and he's just like banging on like a cowbell or something. And the cops show up and the cops are trying to shut it down. And then Bill Murray steps in. He says, "What's the problem, officer?" And they end up convincing the cop to play in the band too. And, and so the party just keeps going.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if you're looking for more Bill Murray, I think the movie does a good job of telling you where you can bump into him in real life, and it's in this little town in North Carolina where he owns a house.
I'm gonna have to check that out. Definitely, that definitely sounds like something that's up my alley.
One where he crashes a wedding and then turns to somebody and just whispers in their ear, "No one will ever believe you," or something.
Right.
Excuse me.
I've read that story somewhere.
Yeah, that's part of the movie as well.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays he couldn't do that. No one will ever believe you. Well, we all got it on our smartphones and streamed it to Instagram Live. So
no, he was in the bathroom.
Okay.
He pops in the bathroom and he's pissing in the stall next to this guy, and he leans over. He goes, "No one will ever believe you," and he just walks away.
That's funny.
He's become an urban legend himself.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
No, yeah, I'm really excited for this movie. The trailer looks good. It looks like a return to form. It looks a bit more serious than even the first two did. Like more of like a drama setting. It's like if those old Ghostbusters movies kind of met Stranger Things, I feel like it looks like. And that's not just because Finn Wolfhard's in the movie.
Although it is hard. It is hard when it's like a set piece from Stranger Things thrown right in the middle of
Right.
Ghostbusters.
It does have similar vibes for sure. Yeah, there's no denying that.
Well, I mean, it's genius. You want it to succeed better than the last one did with the women, then make it like everything everybody else loves, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Stranger Things
pulled first from Ghostbusters, you know, before the Ghostbusters pulled from Stranger Things. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'll do it for the Faber Flubs. I had another couple Star Wars things, but I think we've talked enough Star Wars tonight, so I don't really want to dive into that. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we talk about what we've been watching, reading, playing, etc.?
Let's move on. Let's do it.
Lance showing off his marshmallow fetish there.
Oh, he's coming at the bottom of the building. You know? No.
Last night we talked about how Matt. I was in their chat, kind of trolling them. We talked about how Matt has a thing for digital downloads, and we talked a little bit about how he likes to give them, BJs and stuff. Is that how you feel about marshmallows?
What?
What? That's not really.
Did you just ask if I like to get BJs from marshmallows? Is
Or
that
do you
what
like to give them?
2 marshmallows?
Yes.
I don't know if this is really part of our usual child rating.
we're gonna need to reshoot that comment, please.
I'm just trying to bring some light.
It totally took me off guard. I'm like, what did he just ask me?
Yikes!
Absolute Geek is really changing him. He was threatening someone's life yesterday in the chats. Now he's bringing up BJ's.
No, what happened?
What happened?
God.
Yeah,
Max,
you were the wholesome one.
I've just been watching.
Max, when I first met him. Max,
know your audience, pal. You gotta read the room.
When I first met Max, he used to cringe whenever I said the F word.
Read the room, Max.
It's only until recently that he's started to get used to it, and we've been friends for 10, 11 years. He moved to Colorado. That's what all the pot smoke in the air just kind of like corrupted him. Killed a few brain cells.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, I held back. I was going to ask earlier when we were talking about Ghostbusters, which name from Ghostbusters would be the best nickname for your private parts, but I held back on that.
Let's talk about it.
Egon, yeah, Peter Venkman, Zozar,
The
whatever the ghost name is.
The Keymaster.
The Keymaster.
Annie Potts. I was, but I didn't because I know my audience.
Yeah, you got to read the room. Got to read the room, Travis.
You read the room. I'm the host. I get to say whatever the frick I want.
Okay, frick. No, here, I'll do you one better though, Travis. One of my favorite things to do is to take someone's first name, turn it into a verb, and then they're doing that verb to their last name. So, hey, baby, you want to come Peter my Venkman?
Oh. Travis, my rats.
My name doesn't really work like that.
Yeah. Do you want to lance my sperm?
Well, no. Technically, my name.
Your name works better than any other.
My name is already a verb.
There you go.
Yeah, and yours
already
yours is way better as like a freaking double entendre. Do you want to lance my speroni? Like, come on.
Perfect.
Like, that's too good.
I was a lit major in college, so we sat around one time talking about like if you had to find a literary name for your junk, and so I came up with mine. So this day, Edgar Allan Poe.
Hey-o. Hey-o.
Welcome to the Absolute Geek Podcast, where we're talking about private parts today. What? This is not the one I tuned into.
Well, one of my goals for 2020 was to be more laid back with what we talk about. So there we go. This is just a fulfillment.
Next time you see him, he's got a Hawaiian shirt on.
Hawaiian shirt.
Not even that. Like one of those Charlie Sheen bowling shirts. Yes,
that's even better.
And he's just sipping a martini, wearing loafers and no socks,
telling dirty jokes.
Lance is like, that's my grandpa's hat. Looks better on me.
Oh man.
Well, we just lost some viewers, so I guess this is bad. All right, what have you guys been? Watching, reading, etc.?
I want to give a shout out to a movie that is leaving theaters at the end of the month. It's called Weathering with You. Back in 2016, a movie came out from a Japanese director, his anime movie called Your Name. A very fantastic movie, Your Name. It's kind of a coming of age romance. I describe it as a Freaky Friday meets Armageddon teenage romance. And the same director, this is his much heralded follow-up to Your Name called Weathering with You. I think it's as good, if not better, than Your Name. And I like the story a lot better. You don't have a chance to see it for very long. It's going to be leaving theaters soon. It's very well animated. The story is really good. It's not as funny as Your Name, I would say, but it's a better story overall. So that's going to be my big plug for this week. There's not really anything else I'm super excited about other than that.
I'm trying to figure out why my face is Max's waiting screen. You guys seeing that?
So is that what you're watching this week, Lance? You're just watching Max's waiting screen?
Right now I'm watching my face above my face.
Sam gave this really like nice impassioned
no,
like,
hey, go see this movie.
Let's keep the ball in the air,
like,
Lance.
Yeah.
Keep the ball in the air.
The tone is all over the place in the show today.
No, so The Ranch came back. I've been watching that. And then let's see. What was that other show that we've been watching? Evil on CBS, and A Million Little Things was a good one. But that's what I've been watching right now. It's a lot.
Was the latest episode of that really good? The A Million Little Things?
Yeah, it's been a good season so far.
Yeah, I haven't watched the latest episode that just came out. We decided to watch This Is Us instead, which holy freaking crap, man, that show's intense, man.
I stopped watching This Is Us.
Well, you should
get back into it.
So good. Man, the latest episode. Go ahead.
I was saying A Million Little Things kind of had enough crying in it it had nothing left over for This Is Us.
So my wife and I actually, when we watch This Is Us and like there's an episode of A Million Little Things or vice versa, we can't watch them back to back. We have to watch like Goldbergs or Schooled or one of those like funny shows in between. Anytime we finish one of them, Kelsey immediately says, "Can we watch something funny now?" So that's what we did.
Those are kind of heavy content.
Yeah, they're heavy. They're very good though. Like we both love them. But yeah, you watch This Is Us. Let's watch The Good Place now. Let's watch.
That's how I felt about 1917. I watched 1917, got home, and put on Step Brothers.
Yeah.
Something to
A palate
know,
cleanser. You need a
yeah,
palate cleanser. Like it's like the ginger with sushi. You know, you're like,
Right.
yeah,
You would know. Living in Japan, you probably get real good
Yeah.
sushi.
a lot of ginger. I eat a lot of ginger and then I cleanse with a little bit of sushi. I have a hard time saying sushi today.
Sushi.
So sorry, I interrupted you though, but you've been watching A Million Little Things and The Ranch, and what else you been
Yes,
up to?
there's a lot of TV shows. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, Manifest is a good one. I don't know if I've talked about that one before on the show, but it's just been a lot of TV shows. They're all coming back. Like it seems like they all come back the same week, you know. So it's just a matter of playing catch up a little bit. But Supernatural, of course, and
Yeah, for those of us who remember network TV, the seasons pretty much all start the same week.
Yeah, but there hasn't really been much on Netflix coming out recently. It's been a lot of movies and documentaries.
The Witcher.
No. Yeah, Max keeps telling me to watch it, and I don't know.
It's real good. They're doing like an animated movie as well.
Are they?
Yeah.
You know what, Lance? If you don't want The Witcher, it doesn't matter. He's coming back for season 2. That tells you all you need to know.
It's their most watched season 1 ever. I mean, it's successful. And I saw earlier this week one of the head honchos at Netflix was talking about how they're planning, if it keeps up this momentum, to just make season after season after season of The Witcher. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't want to get to 20 seasons, but yeah, give us more. It's a good show.
Why don't you want to get to 20 seasons?
I just don't like any show to get that long. I don't think any show.
One Piece, Simpsons.
So there are some exceptions, like Simpsons is okay, but like Supernatural's on season 15. I have no interest in watching the show now. Like that's too much.
Yeah, it doesn't want you either.
Like Bones I really liked, but it started there was just too much of it. I was getting kind of tired.
Supernatural had a downtime, like about the middle of the whole show, but it ramped back up and it hasn't fallen since.
Yeah.
I've been watching One Piece has been on for 20 plus years, and it's better than ever.
Yeah. That's fair. That's just my perspective on it is that I like shows that have an ending. Like Chad, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce your last name correctly, Murr. He said he's watching The Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime. I love that show, but it ended after 4 seasons. Now, I like shows to go on a little bit longer than that. I would have preferred to see a little bit more, but I like when there's an end. So that's why I don't want it to get like 20 seasons, but give it 8, 9, up to 10, you know.
That's kind of why I like Supernaturals, because their seasons had like a beginning, end, and middle, like in 3 seasons, and then would start another chapter. So like, yes, it featured the same characters, but they would only deal with this certain threat for 2 or 3 seasons, and then it would translate into a new threat. It wasn't like Lost that like just you never got that satisfaction of like knowing what was going on until the very end. Like it's just a new chapter. I think of it as like just reading a book. You know, you have a beginning, middle, and end, and then you go get the sequel to that book. You know, like Tom Clancy's books or something like that, Rainbow Six or whatever, something like that. Where it's just a new set of stories. Hardy Boys, for instance, a new set of stories fitting, you know, those same characters. Yeah,
I get it.
But I did want to say this. So the A Million Little Things, or This Is Us creator, Dan Fogelman, he's making a new show on Hulu with Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
So it's like a drama. It's like a Hulu comedy drama thing, but it's from the creator of This Is Us. So I don't know. Yeah. So the thing with The Man in the High Castle ending after 4 seasons, that went past whatever, because it's based on a book. It went past the books, right?
Yeah.
See, I don't like when shows do that. I think if you're going to adapt the book and then end. I don't like when they start coming up with new material that, you know, and trying to stretch this thing forward.
Yeah.
Like
that's where most people jumped off Game of Thrones is when the books ended and they started making up new stuff.
But there was a show on CBS or something like that called Under the Dome, which I think was a Stephen King book or something like that.
Yep.
And the first season was great. And then they start getting into season 2 and 3, and it just lost steam until it was finally canceled. Did you watch that one, Sam?
No. No, that was
Chickless, I think, or something. I don't know.
that was before I really got into horror as a prime form of entertainment.
No.
That was back when I was still scared of movies like The Grudge.
Did you see the new one?
No,
Oh, don't.
no, it's too stupid looking.
You mean my ringing endorsement didn't drive you to the movie?
I mean, I had already decided it was not even going to be a 2 on my rating scale.
Yeah, it was horrible. It's like half a.
But what, Travis? What are you watching?
Yeah, Travis, go for it.
All right, mine's a little weird. You're talking about network TV. I've been doing this thing maybe the last four years where every now and then I'll go on to like a streaming service and I'll watch a show that was popular like in the early 90s that I was just kind of maybe too young to get. An example would be like years ago, I watched Northern Exposure, because it's always on. My parents were watching it. So it was always on in the background of my life, but I never sat down like, why do people like this? And so as an adult, I watched Northern Exposure. I'm like, this is a great show. So I attempted that this week with a little show you guys might remember called Mad About You.
Okay.
Remember that show, Paul Reiser and
Sure.
Helen Hunt?
Helen Hunt.
So I'm like, I remember this was always on the background growing up, and I think I saw a couple episodes, but like, there's no way I could get like the relationship dynamics of it. So I watched the first season of Mad About You. First, hear me out. First, I think maybe one of the best theme songs next to Frasier in sitcom history. Tell me why I love you like I do. Very good. Second of all, I found that 1 out of every 3 episodes is actually pretty powerful. They're all bottle episodes, like one space, and it's like they'll be trapped in the bathroom on Valentine's Day or something like that.
Right.
But every now and then they get some, especially for that time, some really deep-seated relationship stuff. Like at one episode, they're Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt are at this wedding, and they just got married like a year before that, and she tells her now husband, like, yeah, after we were dating and about 2 weeks before we moved in with each other, I went on a date with a guy and we had sex. And this is like a sitcom, and he has to deal with this at a wedding. And you're like, well, this is some pretty deep. Like if your current wife tells you that after you started dating, but before you moved in, it's kind of like cheating. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty deep. And of course, they do it like in that sitcom-y kind of hokey way. But on that show, they'll deal with some dark elements of relationships. Now, as an unmarried man, I don't get all the intricacies of them, but I was like, okay, I could see why this show was popular. Will I continue watching it? Season 2? Probably not, but it was a good dive. So if you dive into some old sitcoms that were around when you were a kid, like MASH is a good one and stuff like that. Now that you're an adult, and it kind of changes your perspective on stuff.
Mad About You has a Chad Myrie spoiling the ending. It's heartbreaking of Mad About You. Might be worth finishing out that one there, Travis.
Oh yeah. See, I don't remember. I'm 35, so it was. I don't remember the end of Mad About You, but I remember as the seasons went on, I think they got more and more kind of like gut wrenching, and like the fights. I think that was a part of the show, was like the fights were supposed to be kind of reminiscent of those real relationship fights, where it's like they're not every show is going to have a happy ending on this and these episodes.
Right. I remember my parents watching it because I'm 34, and I remember my parents watching it, but it was always kind of on in the background. It just wasn't a show that you really understood when you were, when was that? Like 95 or something like that? I think
it was 89, the first season, 89, 90. Because in the first season, they were celebrating 1990 at the New Year's episode.
Okay. So yeah, I was 5 or whatever, and it just, I remember it, but I remember that the girl from Friends was in it. What's her name? She walked the dog.
Oh, Phoebe. Yeah. Yeah.
Pooh from The Simpsons was in it.
Yeah, they do cross episodes. Kramer was on one in the first season. Yeah. So that was when they were trying to like get all those shows to kind of blend into each other.
It was that must-see NBC, must-see TV.
A moment of
so-
silence for 1990s sitcom comedies.
Oh man, but no, that's a good
I
one.
don't know why we're talking about Matt about you.
Because it's what you're watching, dude.
It's what you're watching.
That's
dude.
what I'm watching. That's what I'm watching.
Here you go. What else? What else you been up to?
I just bought some Jinko jeans.
Some pipes.
Man. I remember Lee pipes, man. It walked like you were walking like you had palm trees attached to your leg, swaying through the wind. And the bigger the bottom was, the cooler you were. So there was a kid in my school. Everybody loved him. The bottom of his jeans was probably 2.5 feet. You know,
It's like wearing a dress.
Do you
I know.
remember when you go like pants shopping with like your mom would take you like you're gonna go? That was the worst thing for a boy is to have to try on pants. It was like it's like a lot of things and I don't care. But I
hated
remember
clothes shopping as a kid.
I was a chubby kid, but they didn't call me. You don't go to the chubby kid section. They had a term for it. It was husky. I don't know if they still use husky as a term to describe fat little boys, but like as a fat little boy, it was husky. And they always had like a wolf like in that section, like, you know, like
Right.
I'm gonna go to the wolf section, you fat little, you chubby little.
That's funny.
oh man.
I'm a fatty now, but as a kid I was a rod, so that's not something I'm as familiar with. That's funny.
Travis, eat a carrot, you fatty.
Yeah, I was like one day when you grow up, you won't be husky. I'm like, but it's a cool name, man.
Oh, that's funny. No, I remember when we used to go to the Bugle Boy store. Do you guys remember Bugle?
Yeah, those are the jeans. Those are probably my
And
old
from-
closet. Those cool Bugle Boys, guaranteed to rip open and get grass stains in a day. Bugle Boy jeans.
You guys are so old. Bugle Boys? I don't even know what that is.
By Chad. He said we're all kids.
I know, and that's what I'm referencing. I'm pretty sure I didn't know how old you were, Travis, but now I can definitively say I'm the youngest one on this podcast. I feel so youthful.
I guess that makes me the oldest.
I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm guessing based on the person we just found out you're friends with, yes, you would be the oldest. Yeah. Plus, you know their ages now, so you know.
And we really wanted to get the older crowd, so we brought Sam in. And
his husky voice isn't helping with it. He's like, yeah, all right.
That was originally why we had Jay on. Jay was like
Bringing the gravitas.
Jay was our resident grandpa.
yeah.
And he didn't like it though. We always made fun of him. He didn't like being the grandpa.
Speaking of Jay, I went and watched The Gentlemen with him today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Jay
if that was your intent at a segue, I'm going to stop you right there because I haven't even talked about what I'm watching.
Oh, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. Let's get on with it.
That's okay. We don't need to talk too long because I've talked about some of it already. But I did play 2 Call of Duty campaigns recently. I finished up Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I'd already played it, but I wanted to replay it. Just like a mind-numbing thing to do. And then I've still, ever since seeing 1917, I've been in like that war, like World War mood. And so I watched, Fury a couple weeks ago. And so I played Call of Duty World War II. That was actually pretty good as well. But what I really wanted to talk about was something I texted our Couch Trenchers chat about earlier today. And I know Sam was excited to hear me say that I'd watched this. So I had, until last night, I had never seen The Shining. So I watched The Shining, and then today I watched Dr. Sleep. And I really enjoyed them. They were both really good. And I knew that The Shining was going to be good. I mean, it's a classic, and it's very well regarded, but I had never seen it. And it wasn't what I expected. I'm not really into horror usually, but I feel like the Stephen King stuff is a bit better on the horror aspect because it's
like a lot of it's like psychological.
Yeah, it's more suspense and like it's just different. Yeah. It's not like The Grudge and some of these other scary movies that are they're just dumb to me. There's more going on in like the Stephen King stuff a lot of the time. So I really enjoyed it. And honestly, I didn't feel like I understood The Shining that well when I watched it. I feel like I understand it better now after seeing Dr. Sleep. Like I didn't understand what was going on with Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining, but after watching Dr. Sleep, I'm like, oh, that's what was going on. Like I just didn't get it.
That's interesting. That brings, because I haven't seen Doctor Sleep yet, and I haven't heard many people talk about it, so I'm curious to say, like, would you like it? Is it on par for you since you watch them back to back?
So, again, this is the tough thing because I just watched The Shining yesterday, and it's now 2020. I liked Doctor Sleep better, but I didn't grow up with The Shining. It doesn't have that nostalgia factor to me. I really liked it, but Doctor Sleep was just more exciting. There was more going on. The Shining was more of a self-contained story, in that hotel. It's got like the like haunted hotel aspects to it. It's got the Shining, the magic, whatever you want to call it. But it was contained within the hotel the entire time, and it was great.
Well, yeah, you got Nicholson's performance in that, which is kind of what that inroad is. I mean, that performance is so great in there. Yeah,
It is very good, and I'll acknowledge that. But Doctor Sleep was just more entertaining to me. It's just I don't know. I just liked it better. It had more going on, more action in it. Again, since I'm not as into the horror stuff, I think that's why I liked it better.
But it's also tough if you didn't watch it when you were younger.
Yes.
In that time when that movie came out, I mean, it was
more revolutionary at the time. Yeah, in 1980 when it came out.
Yeah, I wasn't alive when it came out, but I saw it when I was 10, I think 10 or 11. I saw that movie at a friend's house. Really wasn't supposed to be watching it, but we watched it anyways. It terrified me.
It's creepy. It's a creepy movie.
But it was, now you have, these horror movies come out that are just the special effects and things like that, like Us and Get Out and these horror movies that have become kind of a staple. It just changes your palette a little bit.
One of the things I think is interesting about that duo of movies is that they introduce the idea of psychic abilities as being called shining or the shine, which is something Stephen King has carried through a lot of other stories, including his Dark Tower series. And what I think is ironic about The Shining is that The Shining as an ability doesn't really take center stage until Doctor Sleep.
Yeah.
In the movie The Shining, you only just get kind of a hint at what The Shining is capable of, or what people with The Shining are capable of. There's some mind reading, and then there's the visions of what the hotel is hosting as far as hauntings. But then in Doctor Sleep, you really get a fuller idea of what they mean when they talk about The Shining.
Yes.
Or the shine, and how powerful it can really be.
And I think some of that was probably movie technology at the time. Well, and also his book, because it's based on Stephen King's book. But yeah, like I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, wow, that's what The Shining can do? Because from the movie The Shining, it did not give the same impression of me. It was more like he could like hear voices, and like he knew things were going to happen before they happened. He could see the past, but like it wasn't the same thing. Like in this, you see that The Shining can make people do things they didn't want to do. You can like move things out of your way telekinetically. You can like infiltrate people's minds. It's
like the Force in episodes 1 through 7 versus the Force in episode 8.
Yeah.
And another thing that reminds me of that I was reminded of watching Doctor Sleep is another anime series called Mob Psycho 100 that you can watch on Crunchyroll, which is a fantastic like psychic versus psychic anime. It's very brief. It's fast paced. It's hilarious. It's heartwarming. It's philosophical. It hits all the bases that you could want in an entertainment. So Max, you were saying you don't want things to last forever. This will be right up your alley. I think it's only like 10 or 20 episodes total.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, I love miniseries. I love stuff like that.
And it's very well done. I mean, I work out to the opening theme song because it just gets you pumped up.
What's it called again?
Mob Psycho 100.
Mob Psycho 100. All right.
It was written by the same guy who wrote One Punch Man, or who writes One Punch Man.
Okay, that sounds cool.
It is cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, but you loved Doctor Sleep, didn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was really, really good. And I like horror where the supernatural elements are kind of analogs for real life trauma. And that is definitely what Doctor Sleep is all about. He's battling alcoholism. He's battling.
All that stuff was great.
post-traumatic stress from watching his father melt down at the Overlook Hotel, and self-medicating and dealing with all of these, not literal demons, but the emotional type of demons, and then using the literal the literal demons to address those inner demons. I think that is where horror is its best, and Dr. Sleep is definitely right up that alley.
Yeah, Danny's journey was fantastic.
So
I really liked it.
I bought the book Doctor Sleep. Would you recommend me reading that before I watch the movie?
Watch the movie first. Whenever there's a book movie comparison, you should always watch the movie first and then go back to the book. Because when you invest all that time in the book and then go see the movie, you're always disappointed. Whereas if you go to the movie first, that kind of whets your appetite for all the little tidbits, the juicy tidbits that you find in the book.
I like that. That's an interesting perspective.
That's a good point, because Hunger Games, I think I didn't like Hunger Games as much because I read the books first, and they took out a lot of things from those movies, and I was kind of disappointed by the movies.
I read the books first too as well, and I was not excited for those movies because by the end of the series, I hated Katniss as a protagonist. I hated her. I thought she was so dumb. She was so indecisive. I thought she just screwed everything up, and that Peeta was the real hero all along. And so I was not interested in watching the movies to watch Katniss just let everything fall apart because she's so incompetent.
Yeah, I get what you mean, though. But the Hunger Games for me is not as good of an example. Now, this is just me personally, because I feel like Hunger Games is one of the better book-to-movie adaptations that's out there. But that is a very good point, though, because you're right. Like, even with Hunger Games being a pretty good adaptation, there are still times where I'm like, well, what the heck? These characters that were in the books weren't even in the movie, and this event that was in the books never happened in the movies, and that can be really disappointing. And it's the same for comic book fans. If you read the comic book, and then the movie comes out, you're going to be like, what the heck? Why didn't they have this key moment? Why didn't this happen? Or why did it happen this way? And I like that. That's a good perspective. Because if I were to go read, yeah, that's the exact example I was going to use. I haven't read the Civil War comic, but if I were to go and read it now after watching the movie, I'd probably be intrigued. I'd love it. But other way around, I'm going to be more disappointed in Civil War. So
yeah, the Civil War book was awesome. I mean, it had a lot more Spider-Man in it. It had, Mr. Fantastic was in it. Punisher was in it. There was just a lot more elements in the book than there was in the movie. The movie was basically Civil War in name only. Like, it had nothing to do with the book.
Yeah,
right.
I would have been fine if they called it something else, and they were able to come out with a Civil War movie now because they own the rights to those characters now.
Yeah, Chad Myrie, I'm going to have to tell you, no, you're wrong. Stop it. So he's saying Lord of the Rings is an example of great movies, but he's saying that they're shit books. They are not the funnest read, but they are great books, so I'm going to disagree with you on there. They're
fantastic literary achievements, but they were written,
They're not as fun to read as like some modern books these days.
Yeah, it's like
Harry Potter is more fun to read than Lord of the Rings.
When were those books written? Like 100 years ago?
Like the 30s, I think.
Yeah, so coming up close to 100 years.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's like reading the Bible. Like it's it's not.
Well, the Bible's a lot older.
I understand that. I'm not trying to equate age. I'm just saying when you're talking in an old form of English like that and stuff, like, and you're talking about decades and centuries. Yeah. It's some of that doesn't translate.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've been up to. That's what all of us have been up to. And if you guys haven't watched Dr. Sleep, I'd recommend it. I really liked it. I really, really liked it. I think it's a 4 out of 5 for me.
I've been meaning to. Just Anna has no interest in watching it. So
it's on the Vudu whenever you want to watch it. I saw The Shining and that on sale last night. I really wanted to watch something, so I just picked up the bundle. And
I think I'm gonna be watching it later today. You guys convinced me. I've been trying to pull a trigger on it, and this kind of put me over the top. So that's probably what I'll be doing.
No, I'm going to say that almost every movie that came out in November was a hit, and hardly anybody saw any of them. There were hits coming out every weekend in November.
Yeah, Knives Out was a really good one that I still haven't seen, and I've heard it's great.
It is fantastic.
I think we've reached a point, and we've talked about it on the show before, that it seems like the movie theater, if it doesn't have Marvel or Disney or something attached in front of it, it's been really hard to get people to go to the theater.
It can be harder for sure. It can be.
I mean, there are exceptions to the rule, but I just think that people, they're not, going to see these one-offs as often as they used to be.
Yeah.
Unless there's like award season buzz around it or something like that.
Well, they're not, and this is kind of a good thing. They're not spending as much money promoting some of these other movies like Doctor Sleep and stuff like that, which is kind of good because then they can afford to keep making them, because promoting a movie is like half as expensive as the movie itself usually. And so it's like, okay, you'll find your base eventually. That's why it's nice to have podcasts to listen to where people will talk about those things and talk about the movies in November that came out that no one saw. But yeah, as long as they keep making them,
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, tonight Sam and Travis are dressed up extremely nice. They look
dapper. You could say dapper.
That is the exact word. Yeah, dapper. We said it probably at the same time.
Oi!
I don't fit in my suits anymore. Otherwise, I would have gotten them too. They're about 3 sizes too big now.
So we are going to be talking about The Gentlemen, a movie that just came out, Guy Ritchie led. So let's let our esteemed guest go first. What did you think of The Gentlemen, Travis?
Yeah, I guess my first watching this movie, fresh off the movie, I think my first thoughts were, or where my mind goes first, is looking at it in comparison to the other Guy Ritchie movies of this ilk, right? Like the Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrel, Rock and Roller, Snatch, of course, as like the genre which he kind of built his career and kind of defined in a lot of ways, right? This very
right.
And so, in comparing it with that, I think it's I was going into it, I was like, okay, is this like his last gasp to kind of go back and try to capture some of the magic of like a genre that he, once kind of mastered? Because I thought Rock and Roller kind of slipped a little bit out of that, and I was thinking that maybe this one would even kind of be further removed. There were some, my personal opinion, some stinkers in there with King Arthur and the second Sherlock Holmes movie. In some ways, the first.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. was awesome.
Yeah, Man from U.N.C.L.E. was good. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was just okay. And so I think this, for me, walking out of the movie, my first impression was like, he's still got something there. I'm like, I liked this movie. It was quite enjoyable. I thought he hit all the right marks. I didn't think it was as, well, I'll hold off on my criticisms about it, or things that I thought kind of irked me. But my opening thoughts were, I thought it was a return to form. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to use the term return to form.
All right.
I'll keep my opening statement short so we can move around the square.
All right, sounds good. Let's go to Lance next.
So I really enjoyed this movie. It I kind of went and saw it so that we would have something to talk about tonight. Was the only reason I kind of went, because he has had some stinkers, Guy Ritchie, recently with like King Arthur and stuff like that. But I was pleasantly surprised, and nothing about this movie is new per se. You know what I mean? There's no groundbreaking things that happen in it. It's just a very well made movie. It's a very fun movie. The characters in it are humorous and likable. Like, everybody's pretty much likable in the movie, even though some of them are doing some awful things. Yeah. But like, even the way it's telling the story with somebody like reciting the story to somebody, and then the movie's playing while this guy's telling the story. I mean, that's all been done. Nothing's new, but it was still great, Yeah,
I agree. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I'll wait to get into criticisms, I guess, when, once you guys give your initial thoughts.
I'll lead off and say that when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was not interested in the slightest. I was like, this movie looks disjointed. It looks bizarre. It looks foolish. It looked just like a pie in the face type movie, just not creative. And then I saw some advanced reviews of it, and then they said, give it a shot. You probably enjoy it. And I was like, all right, maybe the trailer didn't do it any favors. And so when I went, one of the things that I like about Guy Ritchie is he uses some very stylized camera photography or cinematography during his movies. One of the things I really enjoyed in the Sherlock Holmes, the first one, was the Holmes vision, where he kind of slow-mo walks through things before actually doing them in real time. And he did something like that at the beginning of this movie to kind of clue you in that your narrator was not reliable. Talking about Hugh Grant's character, that he was going to be dramatizing events and filling in gaps with some embellishments here and there. And then they paid that off through the movie, where Charlie Hunnam's character is kind of correcting him as to the facts and telling him not to sensationalize and to stay true to the characters that he's portraying. And I really enjoyed that device. And so I was pleasantly surprised going into it, or coming out of it, I should say. So that's my thoughts. That trailer didn't do it any favors, but it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, fair enough. I disagree on the trailer part. I thought the trailers looked funny. I wanted to see it immediately based on them, just because I just thought it looked like a dumb, fun movie. It didn't look deep. It didn't look like it was going to be something that had me, sitting there in the after credits contemplating what I just watched, like a 1917. I just thought it looked funny, especially the Colin Farrell line where they're, saying the guy's name Fahawk. And I was just like, it just looked silly. So I was looking forward to it. And I liked it. It wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't anything new. It was just, it was a fun time. It was an enjoyable 2 hours of my life to watch this movie, but it's not something I'm like over the moon excited about and I need to see again.
Now, let me ask you, you said nothing new. One of the things that I thought was new was the toddlers breakdance video as they're breaking into the marijuana plant and then posting that to YouTube. To me, that was, every movie has to have something new in it just to justify its existence. And to me, that was the thing that kind of made this groundbreaking, was the capturing of the YouTube zeitgeist, where everything has to be posted online immediately as it happens.
That's fair. That was a different take, because it was, it was a fairly run of the mill, like, I don't want to say gangster movie, but like a gangster comedy. And then, but that was new because it was bringing in those internet elements that you don't usually see as often.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the things that we liked about it first before maybe we nitpick it. What Guy Ritchie does so well is think about this as the dialogue. Guy Ritchie starts, I think Lock, Stock was maybe like 98 around there. And so you've already had Tarantino. You've seen that. I think what Guy Ritchie, you used the term disjointed earlier, and Sam, and I think that is a trap that Guy Ritchie falls into, like with King Arthur and the Sherlock, this disjointed editing on there that you're just like, what, why, how are we here now? What happened? And this seems like a totally different movie. Like, was this shot like 6 months later? And so I thought I didn't see that in this one. But what I really love is Guy Ritchie, his dialogue's good. He writes good dialogue for these types of characters. That's like his milieu. But he puts the dialogue, I did direct theater here for like 4 years, teaching high schoolers how to act. And I'm not an actor myself. But one of the things that I found is that it's the voice, these characters enunciate in such a hyper stylized way that it just fits. Like all these lines become like jewels falling out of these guys' mouth. It's that whether they're Cockney or whether it's Matthew McConaughey slipping into a little bit of McConaughey here and there, or Colin Farrell going like full Irish in here. It's less for me what the dialogue is, because some of the lines are cheesy, but when you put them into the mouths and the elocution of these actors who are just making a meal out of it, they're going full on just stylized delivery of this, that I could just listen to this movie for like on a car ride and it would be enjoyable. Just the way the language, the way they're using the language. And I think that's something that's overlooked in certain movies. Oftentimes it's the style, right? It's a close up of a gun, right? Or if it's like a swivel shot or whatever it is, but just the sound of this movie is so fantastic. The rhythm, yes. And the cadence of which these actors and that rapid fire back and forth, right? It's just, yeah. And it's one of those movies because of the thicker accents. You can watch it a couple of times and pick up on small things here and there that you might not have seen the first time or heard the first time.
And one of my favorite parts in the movie, talking about like the language and some of the accents, especially for like an American audience, there was a part where Matthew and forgetting Matthew McConaughey's character's name, but where those two were talking about the potential purchase, and Mick
Pierce.
So Matthew and Mick were talking about the purchase, and Matthew made some comment, and it was not something like he was something that was like he was saying, "You're asking for just shy of a yard" or something. Not a phrase that Americans use, and Guy Ritchie put like in subtitles for the American audience. He's saying, just under $500 million or whatever.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
He uses. Guy Ritchie very much uses language to show class, like the class you're at, in that society. And these are all low. A lot of times these movies are populated by lower class characters who are on the rise, who have gotten there. And some of them will drop that's their whatever street neighborhood they're from accent, and some of them carry it with them as they rise in power throughout the movie. You see that in a lot of his movies, and then you bring in, I love when they bring in the American characters. They did it really well in Snatch with the guy who's like, "Yeah, you have anything to declare, sir?" He's like, "Yeah, don't go to London." That very heavy kind of American, and I think accents are such an important part of his movie to show class and status and play with those ideas of those characters. I think that Guy Ritchie does that brilliantly.
I really enjoyed the accents, and I liked this setting a lot. It gave me Kingsman vibes in that way, because Kingsman has similar accents in it, and I enjoyed that about that. I like that part of the world. I think London and all that is an interesting part of the world, and it's fun to watch, fun to hear. I don't know. I really enjoyed that aspect as well, and the witty dialogue.
What do you guys think of McConaughey having to hold down I guess you call him he's the main lead in this. What do you think about his ability to do that in this movie?
I liked him in that role. He kind of, he was playing an American, so that fit, but at points it did kind of pull me out. I kept realizing, oh, this is Matthew McConaughey. You know what I mean? Like his McConaughey-isms would shine through often. So it kind of pulled me out of that. I wish somebody would have maybe fully stepped in the role a little bit, but that's not to say I didn't like him in the role. It's just, it's hard to peg him as like a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like
well,
he just
in this, he's not a bad guy.
He's the protagonist.
He's not a good guy.
Well, and then Travis, I'd also ask you. I think it would be interesting to see who had more screen time, Charlie Hunnam or Matthew McConaughey, because I feel like Charlie Hunnam was doing most of the heavy lifting as far as the number of scenes,
right.
And I thought Matthew McConaughey was kind of this.
He was the Gatsby, and then Charlie Hunnam was the Nick Carraway,
right?
Who delivers us the story, kind of. Well, except
right.
For Grant,
So Matthew McConaughey is coming in to kind of punctuate these very powerful moments, but Charlie Hunnam and Hugh Grant are telling the story, and then in addition, Charlie Hunnam is appearing in the story, so he's actually doing double duty as kind of a semi-narrator as well as a participant in the goings on. And I felt like he did a pretty good job, but he obviously wasn't the given the lines that had the same kind of cadence that McConaughey had, or that Colin Farrell had, or even what's his name, the Dry Eye Golding, I think
Henry Golding. Yeah,
Henry Golding. Yeah. Those guys had very distinct personalities. It felt like Charlie Hunnam was just kind of the silent helper, but he was doing a lot of the scenes, and I'm sure he had at least as many as Matthew McConaughey, if not more.
Yeah. I think that Charlie Hunnam role would have been Jason Statham 10, 12 years ago. And that's who would have done that in the old Guy Ritchie films. He served that kind of entry character.
But I think I like Charlie Hunnam better in that role, just because Jason Statham, when he does those kind of things, he has like a cockiness to him, where Charlie Hunnam almost seemed like unassuming.
Charlie Hunnam is salt. He was the salt of every scene, which is to say that he added to the flavor of the other players. He didn't necessarily have his own flavor, but he was enhancing the flavor of the other characters in each scene.
Yeah, the scene where he really got spotlight was the falling out the window, like the chasing and that was like pure Hunnam. I love Hunnam, and I know like sometimes he makes choices in what movies he takes, but I really like the guy as an actor, and just kind of like he carries a scene really well. Like it's tough not to watch him, right? He's got, panache to, well, I guess that's the wrong word for it, but yeah, I thought that he was perfect in that role. Made up for the Arthur.
Well, yeah, I think the problem with Arthur is that Charlie Hunnam is he's the kind of guy that makes other people stand out, but he himself has trouble standing out. That was the problem in Arthur, but to make him kind of the second in command here was a wise choice, because again, he's drawing out Hugh Grant's kind of slime ball character, and he's enhancing the boldness of Matthew McConaughey's character. And he's all, in that scene with the high rise and chasing the kids through the street, he's enhancing the kind of the snot nosiness of those kids, and bringing out the eccentricities of the other characters by himself, kind of being a steady tent pole of this movie.
Yeah. A voice of reason, and also showing that generation gap, particularly in that scene,
Speaking of all those kids, didn't they look like Taron Egerton from the first Kingsman movie before he becomes a Kingsman? They were all dressed exactly
like
the
his
same.
Yeah.
Like with the hat and like those
attack the block. Blah, blah.
I'm like, oh, maybe because with Kingsman, I was always like, why is he dressed like that? That's so weird for the time that it's set in, because it looks very 80s, right? And then I saw that in this movie, I was like, oh, that's just how they dress over there.
London street style.
That's
I almost wish one of them was Taron Egerton, that you could put like this slight little nod to a connection to Kingsman in some way, but
I wouldn't be surprised if he got an offer on this film, like when they were casting. If he was in the conversation at some point, but he would have been in the middle of doing.
Yeah, he would have been filming the Elton John one. I thought the ensemble cast was very good at highlighting everybody's differences, and Colin Farrell was kind of an understated hero. Really enjoyed his arc as coach, and trying to do right by the kids who just were impossible to manage. And I thought he put in some good work here. He had some great lines. He had some great personality.
Yeah, he didn't have enough screen time. I wanted to see more of him.
Yeah, I thought
he role, but wasn't in it much.
I kind of like just the peppering of him in there. That pig scene, the way he introduced, they don't have to show anything, right? Like he just and that is like just his delivery. It's just like so calm, It's just like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna press spacebar, have some tea. It's gonna help, and just that. it's just like, yeah, you saw someone said likable. I think that Lance said everyone's likable in this, and you're just like, what a horrible thing to do. It's so depraved, but he just comes across like, yeah, have a hot drink, take your time.
Right.
I'm gonna leave.
Yeah,
like
we won't spoil what happens there, but yeah,
everybody's doing really awful things, but they all come off as like likable people. I mean, except for, was it Dry
Eye?
Oh,
Yeah.
Dry Eye
I guess.
and Matthew. Neither of them were very likable, but they were supposed to be the antagonists. So I think that was by design.
Matthew McConaughey.
No, like the character's name.
Okay, so we're getting into spoiler territory, but yeah,
No,
there is a
what are you
twist.
talking-
There is a twist in this movie. Talking about
Yeah.
Max. Max is dropping spoilers.
We
Spoiler alert.
We always spoil. That's just known now. Yeah, spoiler alert. We're about to spoil.
Are we going spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, so once the character of Dry Eye was introduced, well, quite frankly, even before that, so the guy that's going to buy Matthew McConaughey's whole operation, and when things start going south, I kind of assumed that guy had something to do with all the bad stuff that was happening to Matthew McConaughey's character.
So you're saying the twist, you forecasted the twist.
Yeah, as far as the two of them being involved with each other and everything, the twist I didn't really see coming was Charlie Hunnam's twist of figuring it all out. Like you realize that he knew all this was going to happen before the reporter was telling him what was happening. Like he already had devised this whole plan and everything to kind of spoil what the Hugh Grant's character was doing before Hugh Grant ever even came and told him everything. I didn't see that coming as much. Like I thought they were just going to kill everybody, you know, because they go get the editor, the lead editor, make him stop going after Matthew McConaughey's character, and then I thought they were just going to kill the reporter. But it was a nice little spin at the end where no one really had to die except, you know, the Russians or whatever.
All right, so let's count them. There's actually 3 twists now in this movie. There's the one that Max spoiled. There's the one that Lance spoiled. And then there's the one that they tease right at the very beginning of the movie, which is that you don't really know who's pulling that trigger at the very beginning. And you have to sit through the whole movie to find out who it was that pulled that trigger.
Oh, yeah. See, that one, like, I knew immediately. I'm like, they're not killing McConaughey. Someone else is killed. So, like, that, to me, that was, I know it was meant to be a twist, but, like, I saw that coming beforehand. I was like, yeah, McConaughey's fine.
I kind of assumed
that's not the twist. The twist is, who is it that's behind the gun?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's the question.
Because at the beginning of the movie, you think, like, the Russians don't come into it until the last, 5 minutes of the film. Like
the Russians come into it with the kidnapping or the disappearance of the girl, right? And it's the side mission that Charlie has to go do to figure out like where this girl is, and then we have the kid drop off, and then that's maybe like
that's not the first time they tease it though. The first time they tease it when he opens the freezer.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's when they tease the who's behind the.
When he sees the body in the freezer. Yeah, but you don't, like, the person shooting Matthew McConaughey, like, you don't realize that, like, you think that could be Dry Eye or something like that until
you're supposed to think Dry
the
Eye.
whole
Then
movie
you're
you're thinking
supposed to
this
think
rival,
this guy. You're supposed to think that guy.
Yeah.
And it's not until the very end that they give you the full story.
The Russian, yeah.
Which is important to how the movie ends and how that whole final scene plays out.
Yeah, it's the twist in this movie like really help the story feel less how do you say, it makes it feel more original, I guess, because like I was saying earlier when we were talking about, like, nothing in this movie hasn't been done before, but the twist kept it feeling fresh,
Well, I mean, here's we already talked about it. You had put your screen up, but there was There is one thing new, which is the toddler's music video. The other thing about the twists is compare these twists to the twists that you saw in, say, Glass, the M. Night Shyamalan debacle, or yeah, it was Glass, where the twists in Glass deflated the tension in the movie. The twists in The Gentlemen only increase the tension, and they increase the anticipation towards the ultimate climax.
Right.
More problems are introduced with each twist, and so you're like, okay, this is a big deal. Now that I know this, I want to see what happens next. Whereas with Glass, every time you get a twist, it basically nullifies all the great stuff that came before it, including Split and Unbreakable, where you're like, those movies were good, but now that I know how it ends, I wish I had never seen any of them.
It kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth for the first two. I agree.
Yeah, so this is like textbook how you should use a twist to heighten tension rather than deflate it.
Yeah, because when Colin Farrell gets that call and he's in the car, he's just kind of left his last, maybe his last,
his last stable cleaning, right? The Herculean.
And he gets that the boys call him up and they're like, we're going to take care of that problem for you. And then it just kicks from like, we start wrapping up those loose ends, and it's that, you're right, that tension is just, it's go, 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 go. It's not deflated at all. You're in there. Yeah.
Well, that's typically how a gangster movie like that should be. I mean, it should be like a lot of those tense moments, because that life is tense. You are always looking over your shoulder. You never know. I think it represents that. Like war movies, for instance, like it's always, there are moments of like of emotion and stuff like that, but it's always a lot of like anything impactful is like huge balls to the wall moments. And I feel like that's what gangster life would be like, constantly thinking that you might end up with a bullet in the back of your head.
It doesn't have to be a gangster movie to drive tension. And what we're saying is, or what I'm saying is that when you use these storytelling devices well, the subject matter could be whatever, and it will drive the tension forward. It will drive the audience forward. I've seen great tension from a series about people who use metal detectors to find coins in the countryside. They had really great tension because every little twist would push you forward to wanting to know more. Whereas Shyamalan, typically his twists, more often than not, take all the steam out of the engine, and they make you want to turn it off, like you've been cheated or betrayed by
negate past events in the film sometimes.
Yeah.
And they always save them for kind of the end, like this big reveal, like the
a twist.
Oh wow! The twist is coming.
Yeah. So to construct movies like that, it looks complex, but the formula seems very simple. It's to tell a story straight out as a writer, and then choose which information to withhold from the audience until certain points. And so I think that's what he does really well. He withholds the right chunks of information to us, with just giving us a few breadcrumbs in there, so that way you don't feel like some sort of ex machina thing coming in. But yeah, it's that he very cleverly chose. Like, sometimes people will withhold information for you. Like, you didn't need that. You didn't need to hold that for me. And then the structure with time, because this is a huge ensemble cast, and so you get these little pockets of things. So I think he told the story straight, then jumbled it around and removed the information just to rearrange when you're, as an audience, when you get the information. And not only did he choose the information well, he chose when to deliver it really well, as far as that 3-act structure when that information is coming in.
It was edited very well.
I totally agree with you. I think if you don't have the unreliable narrator trope kind of guiding things, then you have a much shorter movie, much less entertaining movie. I mean, you could have told the movie straightforward, and it would have been, basically Infernal Affairs type movie with those twists. But by giving us the story within a story, he's able to craft a narrative that's funny. It kind of misdirects the audience, and at the same time gives you enough of the true facts to piece it together so you don't feel cheated when it gets to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to be patient with this movie, because the beginning, like, you're lost, but you're supposed to be lost. You're like, who's this and who's that? I don't know all the names yet. So you're referring to this guy that I haven't seen yet, and who is this guy coming in? And sometimes people don't have the patience to be like, you got to sit through the exposition, and then it'll start to kind of play out. So I like a movie where you have to work a little bit, where it's not just spoon fed to you. And an audience wants to work some. If you're sitting back like this, that's not a good place to have an audience. You want an audience kind of up here, and I think they did a really good job of that.
Trying to work through what's going on and everything. I think Fight Club is a good example of a movie that kind of uses the similar storytelling techniques as this movie.
Yeah,
like as far
you got to
as
work a little bit.
Unreliable narrator. The twist is handled really well, and it just puts little breadcrumbs in throughout the movie. And you never know where, when something is happening for the most part. So you're puzzled for a lot of the movie. Like, it leaves open-ended questions that finally have a culmination at the end.
That's a valid comparison. I like that. Yeah.
In fact,
I like
that. Jay and I were talking about, it got into the conversation of Chuck Palahniuk movies and things like that because of this movie. We found a lot of comparisons between the two, and how those types of movies that sprinkle in those breadcrumbs like that are just very riveting, because you're always trying to work through what you're watching,
And it's an illusion. It's all a storytelling illusion. It's treating a movie like a math equation, right?
Right.
And some storytellers do that really well. So it's nice when it's done really well. What do you think this? What kind of life do you think this movie has beyond its release? How is this received? Are people going to see this film?
Like I said, I don't think the trailer did it many favors. Hugh Grant's character portrayal in the trailer it comes off as kind of gross to me. I think most people are gonna just blink and let it pass by, which I think is a shame. I think it's a good enough movie to get you out of your living room on a weekend. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are going to do that, because the trailer they were doing trying to tease people, and they hit the ball a little bit too much. So hopefully people come out for the dialogue that they dropped in the trailer, but I just don't see that happening. Especially with Bad Boys getting as much press as it did coming out a week before. Yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong, but
I don't see it doing well. As of yesterday, it was at 22.1 million worldwide. And granted, that hasn't been out that long. It came out Friday, so it came out yesterday, the 24th. But it's not doing amazing. I mean, Bad Boys in 1917 are still selling better. I went to the Thursday night showing, so the first showing of this movie at my theater, and I didn't have anyone sitting next to me. I had maybe 4 people on my entire row, so it definitely isn't. It didn't get a lot of buzz. It's not getting a huge box office push. Granted, I don't think this needs a sequel, so as far as I'm concerned, I want it to do well because I enjoyed it, but
I thought that made me laugh in the movie when Hugh Grant is standing in Guy Ritchie's office, and Guy Ritchie's like, "Where's the payoff? Where's the payoff?" He's like, "Well, that's why you get a sequel." You know what I mean? And then he walks outside, and at the end of the movie, but obviously there's no room for a sequel. But it's I thought it was pretty clever.
Only 2 women in this movie, and with minor roles.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical with these gangster type movies.
Yeah.
Is it's 90% male. I don't know why. I mean, I think that's just.
I thought they were introducing, Mickey's wife, as she had the beginnings of kind of like a Lady Macbeth vibe going on there. But then they kind of they dropped her out at the end and kind of used him as a reason why he's going to exact such terrible revenge. Gives him that speech of you mess with my wife, type of thing.
That part at the end, that was great.
But for a second there, I thought she was going to be involved more in the machinations of of some of these twists.
Yeah, because it kind of frames her, you know, she's a successful business owner. She's obviously involved with the business. She takes care of those two guys before Henry, you know, Dry Eyes, whatever his name is, before that whole thing happens. But she takes care of those two guys, and you're like, oh, wow, she's a really strong female character, and you know, kind of pivotal to this whole thing. You know, they almost set her up as Matthew McConaughey's kind of the person that gives him advice a little bit, like when he's talking to the guy that's going to buy his thing, and she basically says, you know, he seems like a rat, you know, like, yeah, you get the money, but it's not going to be without, you know, getting your hands dirty or a little bit, whatever she says at the dinner table. But it makes her seem like much more pivotal to the whole operation. And then at the end, she just kind of turns into how every other woman in these types of movies turn into.
I don't know that that's true, but my question for you, Travis, then is: does it pass the Bechdel test?
Yeah, no, it does not pass the Bechdel test. I don't think.
You don't think so? She owns a garage. She owns a garage full of women. She has a conversation with one of her employees, but the question is that conversation about a man?
The man. Her first lines are, the guy comes out and she's upset because there's a man up front at her female-owned garage shop, and she wants females up front, right? So there is they bring in that sense of this is an empowered female progressive woman who's trying to start that. Yeah, maybe I have to look at it. I have to review my my test points on there of it. But I think when you take her out, I like having her in there. I think she does well, but I think Mickey has enough incentive for revenge without having his wife, because how he's established as a character, that whole king speech, people got to know you're king, you know, you got to be king. And the way he was wronged at the end, when he's like, first he's like, go in the freezer, transfer me the money, and then the pound of flesh is for his wife, right? I think that revenge was motivated just by who Mickey was, and you could remove the wife from there, then you'd be almost void of any kind of female presence in the movie, so that wouldn't be good. But as far as her kind of pressing our protagonist into something he has to do, I think he had enough motivation to exact that revenge without his wife's, you know, being in jeopardy.
I disagree, because you don't really see him get that emotional until it has something to do with his wife. Like, he was pretty composed and calm like the entire movie for the most part, other than like when Hugh Grant like made him angry when he was telling the story, and that wasn't
right.
That wasn't true. But then when his wife was nearly raped and killed, yeah, he got emotional. And
right.
That's why I think that she was pivotal in that regard. Now, regarding the Bechdel test, I think it fails. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's a test to measure representation of women in fiction. It asks whether a work features at least two women who talk to each other about something other than a man. The requirement that the two women must be named is sometimes added. And I would say with that final requirement, it does not pass the test, because she does talk to another woman, but I don't think they named that woman.
Well, that's what they've added lately, but that was not part of the original Bechdel test. It was not required that she be named. So I was thinking the original requirements that didn't say that they both needed to be named.
I think it still fails, because they were talking about a male coworker. Like the two people in the garage, like she was talking to one of her employees about a male coworker who wasn't working.
Right, and that was my point to Travis was, does it pass the Bechdel test? And I think it gets close, but I don't think it does.
Just a bunch of white men getting in the way again.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really particularly care for the point where Matthew McConaughey had to come in and like rescue her. I don't know. Like, I feel like that took her back a couple notches, because I feel like she was taking care of herself and being all that, and then the man has to come in and save her. I just feel like I've seen that before.
Would it have been better if at the end, if she gets to exact the revenge, like he hands her the knife or something like that, where there's a sense that I like what you're saying though about like that does give him, he's pretty calm throughout the movie, but we know like growing up, he got to where he was through very violent, bullish means. They kind of show him like that's
with the
and
machete.
then he kind of and stuff like that. So that's in him. And then he once he starts, you know, the big pot industry, then he kind of tampers that down. And his wife seems, maybe that's it. Maybe his wife was the reason for that
calmness.
And then when you mess with the whatever is that soothing element in his character, once you mess with that brings it all out. I don't know. I mean, it didn't take me out of the movie that much. I was it
didn't take me. I was very involved in this movie. I just felt like that was a predictable moment when Matthew McConaughey, he's racing to her office and this guy's about to rape his wife and he rushes in just in time and saves her, you know, and I just felt like it was just familiar territory. And and I'm not in any way like a feminist or anything like that, but I do like seeing movies where the main female character has the ability to take care of herself, you know.
And I would argue that she did. I mean, she killed 2 or 3 men by herself.
Which the way she killed them was pretty badass. How they were,
that was cool.
They're like
Chekhov's gun,
you know.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to see that guy get his from her, you know what I mean? Or
I think that would have been better too. Like if Matthew McConaughey had shot him in the arm and then she came around with a knife or something and like finished him off or something, that could have been cool.
And not like typically like that the panicked woman that does that, you know what I mean? In a lot of movies where she like starts stabbing with a blind rage, you know what I mean, and crying and stuff like I didn't want to see that. I wanted to see a strong woman take care of this guy that was about to harm her.
It's funny too. We were talking about the harm. The most violent things that happen in this film, or the most depraved things, are not shown. We don't see the pound of flesh being removed. We don't see the pig scene, but they cue it up in a way that you're going to make it way worse than they could ever show it on there. And I think that's you know, and you know, as opposed to like Tarantino, you know, at the end of, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they show you just like how horrible that violence looks and things like that, which has its place in that film. But in this one, I'm glad they steer cleared of the ultra violence, and I think that it's way worse in your head than it could ever be. They do that about 2 or 3, maybe 4 points in the movie where they talk about the violence that's going to be inflicted as opposed to showing it.
That's true. It really wasn't that bloody, but it was a violent movie.
I love that scene where he shot him in the crotch, and then you're like, "Oh shit," you know, and then it turns out it never even happened.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But the pig scene reminded me of that Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I was like,
that too.
I was like, that looks directly taken from that episode, you know.
If I hadn't seen that episode, that scene would have blown my mind a little bit more. But I'd kind of come to terms with how disgusting that was.
Yeah.
They chose like the worst looking pig too. Like they shoot that thing, and you're just like, good Lord,
it's a heifer, dude. Like it's the biggest pig I've ever seen, dude. Like,
and I'm trying to think of like what drug are they doing that can that negates that scene, like that allows that scene to happen.
Speaking of drug, so this is something that I had a hard time with. The thing that they're selling marijuana, it just seems so small scale, and this movie tries to make it seem like a big thing, but I don't think marijuana's at the point right now where it's that, like, I think it's the harder drugs and everything like that. I felt like it was a weird drug to choose him being the kingpin of.
I think they do a good job of doing that, is because they talk about how it's going to be legalized eventually. And then now you're dealing with legitimate big business. So you're buying something that is it's like before it goes public, right? And so you have he's selling the infrastructure, not the drug, right? The drug is thing, but it's this infrastructure that can easily be changed over from underground to legitimized. And so that was the whole thing. Like he's like, yeah, the plants are one thing, but I'm selling you this infrastructure. So I don't know how well they did it, Lance, but I think they did try to kind of put some more emphasis on, we know it's just marijuana, but like here's why it's such a big deal.
And I understand that, and that makes sense, but I have a hard time believing he would reach that point of as big as he is selling marijuana. So everything previous to that, you know what I mean? Like because the drug cartels and stuff that are like the biggest ones in the world, they're not just doing marijuana, because it's kind of a small man's game. You know what I mean? Like,
gotcha.
What's big is the heroin and the methamphetamines and the ecstasy and all that stuff. Like, I don't know. Like Pablo Escobar was selling cocaine? Like that just seems like if he was doing cocaine, I think I would have believed that he would have reached that social status. But
I think you're missing the point, Lance. It has nothing to do with how believable it is that he has a marijuana empire. It's just a device. It's just storytelling. The important thing is, what is the story and how does it fit into the narrative? Don't get hung up on the background. The fact that he's raising marijuana is just background. It's just a device. And what's important is that he has this infrastructure that he's trying to sell, and that it's very valuable. If that's all you take away from it, then it's important. Whether it's believable or not, that there's a marijuana empire in the UK is not relevant to this story. You got to focus on how it is used as a story element, rather than is this a factual tale?
Yeah. They don't even put in stoner characters, like in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. You open that scene, they have the stoner characters. I don't remember a stoner character being in there. So it's like they almost want you, like as you said, forget that's even the MacGuffin, that's even the device, because otherwise they'd populate it with like, oh, here's the
Cheech and
Bob
Chong.
Marley, yeah, in there. But they really, it's not a stoner movie like
it's
the way like
it's
some
a gangster, it's business.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
They used marijuana, I think, for other story devices though. Like it was meant, like Matthew McConaughey's character Mick thought he was an ethical drug lord because he only dealt in marijuana. I mean, he was speaking down to the heroin drug dealer, talking about how you say you don't partake, but you're destroying lives. Yeah, you're the destroyer of worlds and all that, and he was bringing up the point of, look, I'm just selling something that gets people high. Maybe they get happy and they get the munchies. I'm not destroying worlds and all that. And that's kind of what I took from it. I don't know. I didn't think the believability was an issue. I mean, I don't feel like $400 million for a marijuana empire is like, I mean, that's a ton of money, but like that seems like a cocaine or a heroin empire probably would have been $1 billion empire, So I felt like that was believable. But anyways, I agree with Sam in the sense that like I don't think that matters as much. But I do think that they used marijuana specifically for the point of Mick's character feeling like he's better than other drug dealers.
Yeah, it's kind of gives him a Robin Hood type feel.
Yeah,
whereas if you were selling a harder drug, then you would feel like, oh, maybe he's a bad guy. Whereas if he's selling pot, then you're like, okay, he's just he's a nice drug dealer. He's a drug dealer you can relate with because this is a drug that's getting ready to go legitimate. And he's actually doing God's work by spreading this weed all across the UK.
And he's the protagonist. And I think that marijuana being his drug makes it easier to believe him as the good guy. Whereas it's harder with a different drug. I don't know.
I would have just liked to see maybe like see if he had like other business dealings and stuff, because I just had a hard time believing that he would become like, because he's essentially a socialite. They kind of paint him to be this socialite, like he's going to events and he's meeting editors of the newspaper and he has all these relationships with these lords and stuff like that. It didn't take me away from the story, but
maybe you dozed off. Maybe you dozed off during the movie. I don't know. Because I thought they did a great job of explaining all that stuff, that he was in with the elites because they were old money and they were running out of old money. And so he teamed up with them because they needed new money. And he came in with this drug empire, and he offered them a lot of new money. And that was how he ingratiated himself with the elites, is he was funding their old money lifestyles with his new drug money.
Yeah, I guess.
That was the tactic that separated him from other drug dealers, was his approach.
Well, we are 2 hours and 10 minutes in. What else do you guys want to talk about this before we give it our ratings and wrap up for the evening? Is there anything negative you wanted to talk about? Like any issues you had with the film?
I mean, it didn't do any sock knocking on my part, but I really enjoyed myself in the movie. I would say it was worth going to see. I hope it gets some more play later on. There's just very few movies that have legs after their initial release. The last movie that comes to mind that had the kind of legs that is just unheard of is The Greatest Showman, where it was released and it didn't really pick up steam until 6 weeks into its release. So if this movie doesn't do well this weekend, I feel bad that it's not going to do well at all. 22 million's pretty decent for an opening night, but I will, if it was a major release, I would have expected it to do at least 40.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that I was looking at reviews and stuff, and everything seems generally positive. So I'm hoping that might be the push that it needs.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of reviews. I've seen a few, and some of them gave it like 4 out of 5. But then you have like IGN, man alive, they dumped on this thing. 4 out of 10 is what they gave it. And that, and on their scale, that means it's a bad movie. And I watched some of the review, and I don't agree with them at all. But it's interesting. We'll see how it does. I hope it does well because I enjoyed it.
EW did a review, but they didn't actually watch the movie before releasing their review.
What?
No, that's how they treated The Witcher. They reviewed The Witcher without watching the whole series.
What? Gosh. Yeah. If you want to say this is a review of episodes 1 through 4, fine, but that's horrible.
They watched episode 1, they picked up with episode 5, and they were like, I'm lost. This show is crap. I don't have no idea what's going on.
Oh my gosh. It's not the simplest show. I'll agree to that, but you can't freaking you can't do that. That's like me playing 3 hours of a video game and saying 2 out of 5, it sucked. Well, I didn't play the whole game. I didn't get enough in to really know that.
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about something that can hold your attention if it doesn't hold your attention. But they shouldn't be releasing a review if they didn't watch the whole thing.
That's what I mean.
Honest to readers.
If I want to come on a podcast and tell people that I played an hour of Super Lucky's Tale and I hated it, fine. But not releasing a freaking review on the website saying 1 out of 5 when I didn't play like very much. Anyway.
Yeah, this specifically. So I looked up that review on IGN. The Gentlemen's frustrating lack of drama, thematic weight, or solid action is what frustrated them the most.
It wasn't an action movie. It wasn't meant to be.
I thought there was plenty of action. There was a ton of action.
There was some, but it wasn't like there was a ton of shootouts. Like I feel like Dr. Sleep had more action than this did.
Oh my gosh, you guys keep forgetting the toddlers. The toddlers. You got the toddler scene. You've got the apartment high-rise scene. You've got the shootout. You've got the it has an action feel to it, but the confrontation with King George, where he's drinking his tea, and then it goes pitch perfect after that. You guys know what I'm talking about.
No, there was action. I'm just saying I don't feel like it was primarily an action movie. There was enough action.
It's not like I'm trying to think of another one, like Gangster Squad, where the action is kind of like one of the main focal points of the movie. This movie relied more on the character development and the story that the Hugh Grant's character
dialogue. I felt like was
dialogue. Then you got the garage. I forget the garage scene with the Queen, right? The garage scene with the Queen that you guys were kind of shaking your heads about. That's kind of an action scene where she.
No, I believe there's the action in it. Like it's not devoid of action. Like I think there's enough action in it. I'm just saying, as far as some of these other movies where all action from start to finish.
It's not an action
that kind of movie.
It's not an action movie. That's not where the tension is derived primarily,
and that's why I like it.
Yeah, no,
I don't think it needs that, and I think if anybody is saying that it needed more action, they missed the point of the movie. And like, there's some movies that do that where it's just action all the time, like Gangster Squad, which I liked Gangster Squad, but it's not nearly as good of a movie as what I just watched. Because sometimes action is not, the best way to tell a story. Sometimes you want to see the character development, and sometimes, the emotion is better than the action.
Yeah.
Amen.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and give it our reviews, and we'll go in order of Sam, Travis, Lance, and then I'll finish off.
3.5.
3.5 out of 5. Okay.
Yep.
How about you, Travis?
I was gonna go 3.5. I think I'm going to go 3. I'm gonna go 3.
Okay, Lance.
I think I'm going with 3. Yeah, 3.
Darn it.
Oh, come on. It's not that hard. Just pick a number.
I'm doing
pick a number between 3 and 4.
No, I'm doing 3 out of 5. And that's what I was always going to do. But I'm saying darn it because Matt was like, we just know Lance and Max are going to have to give it the same score anyway.
So why did you just give it a 3.5 for?
Because I didn't think it was good enough for that. I didn't think it was good enough for that.
But here's the thing: I'm gonna watch this movie again because I liked it.
Oh, I will too.
And
I gave 3.5 or a 4.
Yeah, I gave 1917 a 4, but I never plan on watching it again because
I saw it again.
It was just too hard. It was too hard. I don't know. My rating scale is different from your guys's, but
yeah, mine is based on an everyman. How much money is an everyman going to spend on this movie? I'm not the Academy behind the scenes deciding what the best picture is. I'm trying to tell you what's the best bang for your buck. And if you want to go have a good time, that's a 3 stars. That's one, you're going to enjoy it one time and then you're going to move on to the next thing. 3.5 is, yeah, you could probably be talked into seeing it again, but someone would have to mention it. Someone would have to drag you to do it or say, let's go see this movie.
I plan on purchasing it when it comes out.
There you go. That's a 3.5 right there.
Yeah. So can I move into something else? Is that cool, Max?
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
Real quick. So we had a drawing on our Facebook for one of the pop figures that we're giving away what is it called? Octo Spidey. That's what they call it. That we had a lot of fun teasing Tyler on with that Octo Spidey when we announced those figures. But I'm gonna do the drawing right now. I don't know who's gonna win. It's just a button that I push. It's gonna give me up a random name. So Kyle, if it's not you, Kyle said several times in the chat, did I win? Did I win? Did I win? Almost took his name out of it. So
okay, before you do this drawing, I do want to say that Travis wins for most dapper. He's looking pretty sharp.
Oh, I gotta have a tie, man. I think
is that a turtleneck, dude?
It's a turtleneck. It's a turtleneck. Yeah.
You look very drama teacher.
I was gonna do this, but then I figured it'd be too like.
That's pretty on the nose. You would be Matthew. I'd be
the Hugh Grant the glasses.
Yeah.
play a game with me.
But great job, guys, getting dressed up like that. Let's see who wins Octo Spidey.
All right, let's see.
All right.
And our winner is Kenny Howcroft wins.
Hey,
well done.
So Kenny will make sure to get that to you. So basically,
took your name out.
We did not take Kyle's name out. So basically what we did is we had a drawing with just sharing the YouTube channel. It was very successful, so I appreciate everybody that was involved with that. And Kenny is our lucky winner tonight, and we will be doing more drawings. So if you didn't win today, you will win again.
Yeah, thanks for anyone that shared, by the way. I mean, I keep track of like follows that I get, push notifications, and we got quite a few new follows this week. So we really appreciate you guys' support in doing that. It's awesome.
Yeah, we've the fans have been helping us out quite a bit, so we appreciate it.
Hey, congratulations, Kenny.
Yeah, congrats.
And Lance has to unload about 200 of those pops, so
no,
he's probably gonna be
his wife
he's probably
said
gonna be doing a few more of those.
When I die, we're gonna melt them down. When I die, they're gonna melt them out and make my casket out of it. So,
well, you guys are having another baby, isn't that office going to be the baby's room? So you got to move all the pops out.
They're sharing a room.
I know.
We're probably building me an office outside. So
you know what you ought to do with all those pops is just melt them down into a Lance-sized pop that you can be buried in.
Oh man,
yes.
I like it.
Yes.
Beautiful.
There is a site, I gotta find it, where you can make custom pops. So you can basically take your face and they'll make a pop figure in your likeness. And I was thinking about doing that.
I don't know that the world is ready for a Lance custom pop, but if that ever does happen, I'm sure Max will be first in line to
I was just gonna say, if you can get one of those made, that's an excellent birthday present for me.
Well, Max travels a lot. So he can take his easy birthday. He could take his Lance pop on all his travels and take pictures with it. Like, here's Lance under the Eiffel Tower.
Lance and I went on a vacation today.
Babe, did you pack my Lance pop? Hunter, I told you to pack the Lance pop.
When my wife is having the baby, I'm gonna put the Lance pop on top of the bed. But Lance is there in the birthing room.
The first thing that child sees is Lance's face coming.
We're gonna have two. One for me, and the baby is gonna go to sleep with his Lance pop or her, whatever. We don't know the gender yet. Gonna go to sleep.
Maybe we'll do a whole Couch Cruncher, box set, all 4 in one box.
I'm down. I think that'd be cool.
I want to guest star as a troll doll.
Travis the Troll.
Just hair, a little jewel in my belly button.
That Gambit from the X-Men is finally getting a Funko Pop, and it looks badass.
I didn't know you didn't have one.
I don't know that the rest of us are that interested in Funko Pops.
And with that, we're going to close out the show. We don't have to talk about Funko Pops anymore. No, but thanks everyone for tuning in and listening to us tonight. We appreciate you. The chat was nice and active. We appreciate that. Check us out on couchcrunchers.com. We got some new articles that have been going up. It went up a couple weeks ago, but I put up a top 5 most influential Avengers in the defeat of Thanos. Posted some leaked images from the Colin Trevorrow episode 9 that would have been titled Duel of the Fates. I posted some of those up there, and that's been confirmed. Like those are legit concept art from what his movie would have been. Pretty interesting if you guys want to see that. Got a Doctor Who review up there as well. You guys are interested. But and then we're on the podcast every Saturday, 7:00, and every Monday in your podcast provider of choice every Monday morning. So thanks again, guys, and until next time, nerds out.
Keep on geeking on.